worried about hurting someone's feeling or not getting access or how many clicks they get or whatever it is that's driving them. But this division in a Democratic Party needs to stop until the Democratic Party gets in power. Get in power, then work it out amongst yourself. But remember that the eye on the prize is winning the elections, getting the Senate, whatever it is, that's the prize. Then have the battle within.
I know, but Alonzo, obviously I understand the logic of that, and that's exactly what we did in this election. It's not like anybody attacked Biden. No, we had as near 100% unity, right? Did it work? No, because the thesis is wrong. The thesis is be neutral, be weak, be civil. And that's not how you win elections. So you're 100% right in saying, oh, when they, and I know Michelle Obama is a saint, and you're not allowed to say anything against her. But there's nothing in the Democratic Party more than the idea when they go low, we go high. Hey, you float away in a cloud, okay? No, when they go low, you should burrow a tunnel underneath them and plant them up. Okay, so politically, okay? And you should blow them up. I mean, no, there is, they won't be able to get over that, right? Anybody does that on the Democratic side, the media says, no way, don't listen, don't. Those guys fight back, don't, right? So anyways, Ben, tell us about the gambling odds here, and then we'll see if they're right or not.
Well, a friend of mine told me, because I talk gambling quite often, that about, I don't know, 45 minutes ago, you could the sites that were taking bets on this, you could lay money on Biden at plus 185, so that's nearly 2 to 1. You bet $1,000, you win $1,850 if Biden wins.
Okay, hold on, sorry, I got a call. This has been the most amazing development of tonight out of so many amazing developments. Fox News has called Arizona for Biden.
Yeah. So let me put that in and why we all should have made that bet at plus 185.
Yeah, and now by the way, as you were speaking, it had gone to 3 to 1. And so I wanted to talk about, is this red mirage or is it polling? So we're gonna get to that next, but you start the conversation, I'll follow.
So Nate Silver at 538 says if Trump wins Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio, which seems likely, and I presume Georgia and North Carolina, but Biden wins Arizona, there's an 85% chance that Biden wins the Electoral College.
Yeah, so, no, that's what I've been saying all night.
Right.
At the end of the day, you win Arizona, you're gonna win anyway. But it should have never been this close.
Right, but I just want, yes, it shouldn't have been, but when it's all over, he's gonna have won by 6 or 7 points if he wins Pennsylvania. And so as close as it is tonight, as frustrating as tonight is, and it should remain frustrating because I don't think Democrats are gonna take control of the Senate. Maybe they get to 50-50. But then we're going to spend the next 4 years like desperately hoping that Joe Manchin is with us, and that's going to go poorly.
That's going to go super poorly.
Yeah. So it doesn't. In the end, it won't matter if he won the Electoral College 278 to 260, or with Arizona 289 to whatever that comes to 249. If he wins by 6 or 7 points, it'll be a fairly dominating win, and it adds some energy to states to get behind this electoral college, popular vote electoral college compact, where we remove the electoral college nearly here even if Biden wins. But if Trump wins for the 3rd time in 6 elections, the guy who got fewer votes wins. It's insane. So obviously a win in Arizona changes the dynamic. I went into this quickly. You'd think that you wanted to have some protection against losing Pennsylvania, although as Alonzo pointed out, right now he's getting killed in Michigan, which would make Arizona irrelevant unless you win Pennsylvania. But you wanted protection against Pennsylvania, so you needed Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, or Arizona. There is a possibility, if that's worth mentioning, incredibly worth mentioning, that if Biden does win Arizona and Trump wins Pennsylvania, and Biden does not win either the 2nd district in Nebraska or the district in Maine, that you're at 269. So Biden has to win one of those districts. He's up 9 points in the result from the early votes in that 2nd district in Nebraska. He's up 11 points in the 1st district in Nebraska, which theoretically he has no chance to win.
Yeah, so guys, we talked in the beginning about a red mirage. So how in some of the states they count the mail-in ballots quickly, and in some of them they count them slowly. And so in the states that count them slowly, Trump will appear to have a lead, but it's not real. Now, in Pennsylvania, he appears to have a lead, but I would still be fairly confident that it's not real. But the problem is, the red mirage did not hold, as far as we can tell, in Florida or North Carolina, and it looks like he's going to win those anyway. So, well, then that makes you question the strength of the concept of a red mirage, if you're being honest about it. And so, since it didn't hold, it appears in Florida and North Carolina, then you worry a little bit more that it won't hold in Pennsylvania. But if things were normal, and obviously we're not within 100 miles of normal at this point, but if things were normal, we wouldn't be as worried, because you'd be thinking, well, likely Biden's going to win Pennsylvania anyway when they count the mail-in votes, which are coming later and are heavily Democratic. We know those things. That's not a poll. That's registered Democrats versus registered Republicans. And that's far more certain. So at the end of the day, you could still have Biden winning all the Midwest and Pennsylvania and Arizona, and it's not a blowout, and he made us way too nervous, but it's still a fine enough win and a solid win. And that's why I kept saying Biden's still the favorite, right? And at one point I thought we were at the nadir. We went a little lower, okay? And now with Arizona maybe being called, it looks like we're on the way back up. Now, but there's also the wild card that consistently throughout the night, in at least what I have seen, Fox News has been the most optimistic for Biden.
Yeah, that's right.
And the New York Times has been the most optimistic for Trump. You know, well, I don't think they're planning it, but
go ahead.
I mean, that's the world we're living in. That insanity that you just described is the world we're living in. So, you know, I don't know. I hope you're right, Cenk. I hope you're right about the red. I forgot what you called it, but
mirage,
the red mirage. I hope you're right about this. I don't know. You know what Ben said earlier about the Democrats winning 3 elections through the popular vote, but losing the presidency. The only thing that's going to change that, and I don't know when or how it happens, let a Republican win the popular vote and lose the Electoral College, and watch how fast the Electoral College disappears. Gone. It won't come up. You know, these are the kind of fights that the Democrats forget the day after Election Day. Like, how many times do you have to be screwed by this before you work on changing this, before you work on figuring out a way to make people's votes matter everywhere? Why are we always beholden to small states? And when I say small, I mean smaller in population, smaller in economy, and the major states like California or Texas or New York or whatever, it's just a given, so they don't even count. There's something fundamentally wrong with our election system. Let's work on changing it. And this is the kind of thing that the Democrats have to work on in between elections. Like, today's not the day to have this argument.
Yeah, I hear you, but Alonzo, in a sense, you nailed the problem exactly right. We all know with great certainty that if Democrats lose elections that they won the majority in, they'll do nothing about it. And if Republicans ever lost an election that they had the majority in, they'd rip the country apart to change it. That's strength versus weakness. And we all, whether we say it out loud or not, everybody in the country knows in their bones that the Democrats are weak. That's a massive, massive problem for the Democratic Party. All right.
I don't know, Cenk, I didn't mean to interrupt you, and I understand what you're saying about weaker. I think the problem is the Democrats are spread too broad, too many ideas, trying to please too many people. You know, the Republicans at the end of the day, I have a friend, she put her money where her mouth is. When Trump won, she moved to Canada. She was Canadian. She had lived in the United States. He won. She said, okay, I'm getting out the country. But she put it really simple. The Democrats can't come up with a good slogan. The Republicans, it's just simple ideas, right? They're going to take your guns, or they're killing babies, or and it can be nonsensical. It doesn't have to be true, but it's simple. Then the Democrats go into nuance. I mean, Trump has been lying about having a health care policy for coming up on 5 years. We know he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a policy. They're believing that he's going to help the people with pre-existing conditions while he knocks down pre-existing conditions. I don't know if it's weakness or you're aiming too high. You're aiming too high. Simplify. Make people understand it. A simple statement is easier to get behind.
Yeah, but I think Alonzo, that actually suits Cenk's argument. Like, stop with your nonsense of we're trying to bring dignity back and reaching across the aisle. Take a stand on something that people want, and we know that polls show that the Democratic positions on almost every important issue is either solidly supported to overwhelmingly supported. So support those issues, run on those issues, and then, at least for the presidency, and I'm telling you, for a lot of these Senate seats too, you look at the Democratic candidates who seem strong. Find candidates. Look, it's not an accident that the last two Democratic presidents, who were too centrist for most people here at the Turks, certainly Bill Clinton, these were dynamic guys, unbelievably dynamic guys, lit up the room, made their points strongly without a sense that they were making fun of the other side. It worked, right? And Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden are not in that mold. And I hope that at some point there will be a recognition that people, I don't know if her specifically, but people who have the dynamism of somebody like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez ought to be at front and center of this party, whether it's winning a seat in New York and being Senate Majority Leader, or whether or governor of New York, or whether somewhere down the road she runs for president. I'm not saying I agree with her on everything, but she represents the kind of person who is reminiscent of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama.
Yeah. Okay, we got to take a break, guys. Give you an update right before we go to the break. In Georgia, we know who the two people are that's going to go to the runoff. It's Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican Kelly Loeffler. Doug Collins conceded to Kelly Loeffler. He is more of the populist, angry right-winger, and he has lost.
And so, she's only incredibly right-wing and corrupt and dumb.
Yeah. That's what happened in Georgia.
She left the gun at home, so there's that.
Yeah. So, by the way,
you didn't pose with the gun and the truck.
Yeah. Cindy Hyde-Smith won her re-election for the Senate in Mississippi. So the idea that Democrats had a shot in places like Mississippi, that turned out not to be true. Then potentially close races like Elise Stefanik in 21st District in New York. She's a Republican. She kept her seat, comfortable enough to call already. It's not just Biden. Across the board, Democrats are coming in not as strong as we would have wanted. And now, in this case, it's not about the arguments they made. It's about their electoral performance. Okay, hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube. Your participation in the show is absolutely critical. We need you to be the Young Turks and get our back. If you're watching anywhere else, tyt.com/join. We cannot do these big giant shows without your help. And one last thing, guys, tyt.com/go is super important. That's our fundraising drive, and we got to raise $200,000 so we can have these thoughtful conversations, give you the analysis, and I hope give you the strength that the progressive movement and the Democratic Party needs. We'll be right back. All contributions that go to tyt.com/go help spread the progressive message. So we want to thank you guys. So here are the folks who are thanking today. Alan in California gave $127. You're going to get the t-shirt.
we press on. Dawn in Illinois, $10. Shirley in California, $10. King in Minnesota, $15. And Pauline in Minnesota, $50. You guys are the best. We're not powered by right-wing billionaires. We're powered by you guys, whether it's $3, $5, or $1,000. We love you. TYT.com/go.
PragerU is a right-wing media outlet that gets $20 to $25 million a year from billionaire backers. TYT doesn't have billionaires cutting us checks, but the good news is that we don't need them. Okay. Bring it down. TYT can beat the right-wing media and their billionaire funders with contributions of just $200,000 a month from TYT fans donating to TYT.com/go. And we're already halfway to our goal. Look, whether you give $3 or $3,000, your contribution helps us press on. And it might sound like it's a lot of money, but remember, it's only 10% of what they get from billionaires in these giant checks. And with 10% of their money, we're mauling them. And we can continue to get that progressive message out to everybody. And since we're only accountable to you, our fans, and not the corporate backers, we can cover topics like Medicare for All, Green New Deal, and definitely getting money out of politics without having to look over our shoulder at which donors we might be upsetting. That is liberating. You guys liberate us. The Pragers of the world are accountable to the billionaires that give them money, and in turn, what do? They deliver propaganda on their behalf. We deliver the truth to our audience and are only accountable to you. We are the microphone of the progressive movement. Help us keep going by making a contribution today at TYT.com/go. Let's go beat those billionaires together.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be.
2020 is everything. Everything will be decided in 2020, and then we'll either have pessimism a long time, or we'll have optimism.
There is some good news when it comes to elections throughout the country, especially for progressives.
He's struggling in polls. He's trailing Joe Biden in many of these battleground states. And he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic, well, maybe it'll give him an edge over Biden.
We need to get rid of these people who are in office, who enable these systems that continue to oppress us. Start using your votes and your dollars for the people who want to preserve your community and your humanity.
Defiance is what you need in order to fight for what you know is right. The fight never ends.
Progressive candidates come on this show, we help them, and they've at least got a fighter's chance.
Expand the squad.
Here we go, Squad 2.0. Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
This time, it's real. If he wins another term, God knows what he'll do to our government, our democracy, and our way of life.
We need solidarity, and it begins with you.
Who's gonna fix it? Who's gonna fix it? Goddamn right. I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
All right, back on the Young Turks election coverage. Cenk Uygur, Ben Mankiewicz, Alonzo Bowden with you guys. Let me do a quick shout out to our sponsors that also made tonight possible. Aspiration.com/TYT. It's a progressive place to put your money instead of the big banks. You know, you put it in the big banks, they're gonna put it into fossil fuels. You don't want that. And Aspiration doesn't do that. And when you sign up for an account, they actually plant 10 trees for you on top. They've already planted over 2 million trees. So aspiration.com/TYT. Super important. Speaking of planting trees, there's also Plant Your Change. I probably shouldn't do this at the same time, it's going to confuse you, but if you go to tyt.com/trees, you could use your aspiration account, but you could use any credit card or debit card you already have, and they round up the dollars if you wanted and plant more trees that way. So we're trying to find different ways to find progressive sponsors and help the environment, help everything else. And then finally that leads to twostrongcoffee.com/TYT. They give the progressive causes. I don't know any other company that does that, Just Democrats, Rebellion PAC, etc. And it's organic, it's fair trade, and it's actually awesome. It's really, really delicious, as almost anyone who's tasted it can attest to. So wins across the board for all of that. Now, the reason I had that brief moment.
Can you let me just say one thing, Jake?
Yeah.
Regarding this.
Yeah.
That actually is, oh, look at me. That's actually why we lose, is because hosts come on here and they talk about a bank and then they talk about trees and their organic free trade coffee and giving your money away. And oh, look at this, and it all goes to progressive causes where you can plant more trees. Yeah, that's not winning elections, my friend.
Yeah, or what we could do is after we plant 2 million trees, we could take one of them out and beat the Republicans over the head with it, proverbially and metaphorically, of course.
So let me say one more thing, because
Yes.
you'll love this. So Mark Meadows, White House Chief of Staff, was on some show. Did you guys bring this up by any chance? So he was on he was a guest on some show. I didn't see it, but I read about it. And the question, what can we expect from a second Trump administration? It's when things were looking good for him early. And Meadows said, well, first thing that Trump will do in his second term is an infrastructure bill. I mean, it's like, hey, well, great, it worked the first time, we just do it again.
Yeah, I mean, that's another, look guys, this is why I talk about weakness. Donald Trump would be asked softball questions like, what's your agenda for the second term? And he'd be like, I'm disappointed in Fox News and I can't believe Hunter Biden. He has absolutely no agenda. What's he going to rebuild the wall? I'm going to try an infrastructure bill again, right? And by the way, even if it was true, and even if he was going to be more effective this time, that was your winning message, infrastructure bill, right? And the Democrats are struggling to beat the guy whose main selling point he thinks might have been infrastructure bill.
Well, no, I think that's not his main point, and he says what his main point is, because the dog whistle is gone. The dog whistle is gone. So this, whether you want to call it white supremacy or nationalism or racism or xenophobia or whatever, that's what he's selling, and that's what they're buying, and that's why talking about things like an infrastructure bill or a plan or whatever, no, we're gonna hate other, right? Whether other be black, brown, gay, immigrant, whatever, it's us versus them. They're out to get you. Stay scared. And people, I think a lot of these Trump people are so invested in that, and then their ego gets involved and their emotions get involved, and they can't pull out. You know, it's when you try to have a discussion with them, it's the same as talking to him. If you bring up a good point, they change the topic, or and again, this is brilliant because it works. They just say fake news. Like I just refuse to believe it. I don't care if it's true. It's fake news, and then they won't talk about it anymore. How do you? I don't know how you battle that.
Honestly, and don't take it the wrong way. I'm telling the audience, and I've got to clarify it after I say it. But you need a Democratic Trump. Not one who lies, not one who's immoral. I don't mean it in that way, but someone who is willing to bludgeon the other side with their case, and to make it in a super simple way, not a sophisticated way, not an intellectual way that Jake Tapper is going to love and some middling editor at the New York Times is going to love. Forget the New York Times, for God's sake. Forget appealing to, I know you're on NPR, Alonzo, but forget appealing to NPR. So like,
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm agreeing with you 1,000% on this. I am agreeing with you 1,000%. A loud voice with an opinion that's not changing. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, So
NPR will get over it, by the way.
Yeah,
they'll be all right.
I hope so. But I remember last time I was on NPR, they were aghast at what, because they're like, my decibel level had risen above a whisper, and they were flummoxed. They didn't know what to do about it. And then I criticized Nancy Pelosi, and they're like, that's it. Never have this guy on again. This is crazy talk. So what I mean by a Democratic Trump is somebody who is the opposite of Adam Schiff. The elites love Adam Schiff. They love it. Oh, he's so intellectual. He's blah, 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 blah. I don't know a single person, literally, a real person who makes less than $200,000 a year who's like Adam Schiff. Yes.
No, I know many.
Many that make under 200,000.
Yeah, but about your NPR point, let me just say this: that we'll talk more about it after the break. But first, the news. So, yeah, what you guys leave out is that it's not talking loud and it's not hitting people with a stick, although that's a big part of it. It is dynamic, compelling candidates. And that, I'm not saying telegenic candidates, and I'm not saying that telegenic is a big part of it, but I'm not saying that they got to act like Trump. But they have to be able to capture the room. You have to care about them. You have to like them. As Alonzo said, with the we just want to scare people, right? The other. That's emotional, right? That works in large part because it scares people. The way you get past that is with appeal and dynamism, right? That's people are like, oh, I like that guy, right? You may not even know why. And the issues don't really matter. And back to Alonzo's point, of course, the issues matter for the country and for humans. But the idea is you get somebody dynamic, whether it's for president or the Senate or the House or state legislatures, and they win, and then they do good. Like, that's how this is done. And running, to Cenk's point, I mean, I don't feel as strongly about Adam Schiff, but you don't win by running guys like, who was the guy that we loved in Nebraska, loved to make fun of? Ben
Nelson. Ben Nelson.
Right, we don't win with guys like Ben Nelson, even though he won a Senate seat in Nebraska. But yeah, and we saw that this year in the candidates who were available for Democrats. And we saw it in 2016 with the candidates who were available for Republicans, with the exception of Trump, who was dynamic in a new and interesting way. And Democrats are going to have to find those candidates, and then we as progressives have to hope that they are going to do the right thing. But
it's so important that you not mind when they're a blunt instrument. So when they go and hit the other side, and maybe they're not even 100% right. Oh my God, the media will be furious at them. Furious.
They'll be less furious if they're a really appealing person. I mean, this is an art, right? Politics is not just about a guy who goes out there with the issues. Yeah. I mean, to some extent, you learned that when you ran, right?
No, what I learned was the media will assassinate any strong Democrat. I'm not kidding. Look, I don't want to say it because it's not about me, and I don't want people to think it's about me. But the LA Times editorial was, Cenk is right, but he's not civil, so we're going to go with the one who's wrong and civil. Literally, like, that's not an actual quote, but I'll bring back, when I come back on air, I'll bring you the actual quote, and you see that's exactly what they said. Because we'd rather lose than be uncivil, I do declare. How's that civility going for you, Los Angeles Times? All right, by the way, Chrissy, she got killed against Mike Garcia in the special election, lost by 10 points. How's civility working out for you? Anyway, so I got to give you the state of affairs right now, because this is the most inexplicable election, although ironically for understandable reasons. The understandable reason is the mail-in votes have made it so that it's impossible to tell what's happening in these states. So right now, as things stand, I'm going to read you really bad numbers, but don't freak out. As you have seen tonight, when there is reason to be upset, we share it with you, right? And when there's reason to be calm, we share that with you. So let me read you the numbers. 48, these number of people reporting in would be a huge deal. But in this case, they are not because of the Red Mirage situation. So Michigan, 48% reporting Trump, 10-point lead. 51% reporting in Pennsylvania, Trump, 14-point lead. 61% reporting in Wisconsin, Trump, 5-point lead. 62% reporting in Minnesota, Biden 12-point lead. 76% reporting in Georgia, 9-point lead for Trump. 76% reporting in Arizona, 9-point lead for Biden. Ohio, 88% reporting, Trump 8-point lead. Florida, we don't have to talk about anymore. But North Carolina, so that now this is also interesting. 95% reporting. North Carolina, 1.4% lead. But now the New York Times went from 95% likely that Trump is going to win. I think they got up to 96% likely that Trump is going to win. They've now backed it up to 85%. They're going closer to Fox News. Fox News had this, had Biden winning in North Carolina. So in a normal situation, you're not going to close 14-point leads with 49% left to go. But remember, the whole 49%, I don't know if it's all of it, but almost all of it is mail-in votes, where Biden has a massive lead. So when you look at it in the context of the mail-in votes, believe it or not, despite the overwhelming Trump numbers I just read you, I begin to get optimistic, okay? If Trump's lead is only 5 in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is not counting mail-in ballots yet, or a huge portion of them, especially from the cities, well then Biden's in great shape. So in fact, let me read you Reed Epstein, who's in Madison, Wisconsin for the New York Times. Remember, they say, as you see Wisconsin results come in that many jurisdictions, the absentee ballots won't be counted and reported until all of the absentee ballots are counted. So there's this apparently giant chunk of absentee ballots in Wisconsin that has to be counted at the same time. So
will be reported at the same time.
Counted and reported at the same time. You're exactly right, Ben. They already have counted some, but they're not reporting it. They're waiting for counting the rest so they can report it together. So that's a situation where it could swing from a 5-point lead to Trump to all of a sudden a 5 or more point lead to Biden, and then that's when the Republican voters will lose their minds, because again, they live in an alternate reality. We don't. How do you know we don't live in an alternate reality? Because you just watched the show for the whole time here, right? And we told you when things are going against us. We didn't live in an alternate reality where everything was hunky-dory. We were telling you this election was supposed to be a landslide, and it isn't. It's too close. Because we're honest with you, and numbers are numbers and math is math. The other side, if it turns out the mail-in ballots swing Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, as is likely, they're going to lose their minds. They're not going to understand numbers. They're not going to understand reality. As Alonzo said earlier, they're just going to say fake news. Okay, so, oh boy. So,
by the way, that's not across the state in Wisconsin. That's in some counties.
Some jurisdictions. Yeah. That's right, guys. We got to take a break here. Alonzo, you're awesome. Thank you for joining. Did you say you're going to Philly soon? Where can people find out where you're going to be?
AlonzoBowden.com. I use my name on my website. My schedule's up there. It's continually changing. Ben, I want to say I love you and appreciate what you said. I wish Barack Obama's came more than once in a lifetime.
That's right.
You know, the dynamic speaking ability, the people organized behind it, bringing in people who didn't vote, all the young people and stuff. And AOC might be the next one, but I think we got to wait like 10 years for her to legally run. So I hope we make it there. Thank you, guys.
It's magic.
So much for having me. As always.
Thanks, Alonzo.
All right. When we come back, Michael Schur, Epic Politics Man, John Idarola, Ben, and Adrian Lawrence. So much more coming up. They're going to update you on all the numbers. Plus, again, guys, you make this show possible. Hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube, tyt.com/join anywhere else. We'll be right back.
Across the map are going to be so tight and so close that it is likely going to be very difficult to call this on election night.
The twin forces behind the Biden candidacy, the billionaires and the Bolsheviks.
Arizona, 19 million. For the vice president, 9 million, a little over 9 million for President Trump.
We are desperate for Donald Trump to not be president anymore because he's fascist and is a threat to our democracy. And we said that from day one. Yes, we want Biden to beat Trump. Is that clear enough?
It is increasingly difficult for the American public to get any sort of truth.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
You want to know how you could save money and save the planet? Hello, I got an awesome option for you guys. Aspiration.com/TYT. You plant not 1, not 5, 10 trees when you sign up. You know what trees do? Not a big deal, but one large tree can provide a day's supply for up to 4 people. That's 40 people's oxygen just by signing up at aspiration.com/TYT. Sign up for a free spend and save account right now at aspiration.com/TYT.
Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at Vote and let's make change happen now.
Like all small businesses, we're struggling through this pandemic right now. We are doing a drive to keep TYT healthy. We want to be able to keep doing it, and it's been a herculean task. We're trying to raise $2 million overall, $200,000 a month if we can. If you can, and only if you can, TYT.com/go. Seriously, because we can't sustain this show without you. So thank you for making all this possible.
Where else can I feel as free as I do here to do what I do? And I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it weren't for all the people who have really carried us throughout the years.
You're our ultimate boss. We report to you guys, and if you don't like what we're doing on air or we're not telling the truth, boom, you the Young Turks. Keep TYT alive, healthy, wonderful, awesome, independent, progressive. Keep it all. Press on. Get it? It's a double meaning. TYT.com/.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson here, wondering if you are ready to VOTE. If you're physically going to the polls, make sure you have the correct location. Make sure you have a voting time ready with all the ID, hand sanitizer, and face masks you need to be safe. And to be extra safe, maybe even bring some comida because it might be a long wait. If you are voting by mail, have you requested a ballot yet? If not, go to usa.gov/absentee-voting and it will come in the mail right to your doorstep. For those who can't but need more support. Latinos could be the largest minority in the electorate, and young Latinos could swing the outcome, but only if you come out and vote.
Welcome back to TYT's election coverage. I'm back in studio after a short break that apparently did nothing to recover my voice, but I'm also joined in studio by Ben Mankiewicz, and we're also joined by Adrian Lawrence and Michael Shore. Everybody, welcome to the coverage.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having me.
So, don't tell me what's happened because I've DVR'd this.
Good luck with that.
It's exciting watching. I think you'll enjoy it to some extent. I haven't spoken with either of you in some time. Haven't gotten your feelings about how things are going in. I have an idea about Ben since I was watching the coverage before coming in. But based on what you're seeing so far, what are you thinking about the way this is likely to play itself out for the rest of the night and through the next few days?
Who wants to go first? Adrian, you want to go first?
Well, gosh, you know, my spirit's adequately broken with sadness regardless, just seeing how many people are voting for Trump, even though the votes are not fully counted yet, which is a good thing. But it really shows that do. That is very disheartening. And so, philosophical notion that it matters who turning their head, looking away, ignoring racism, sexism.
Covering this thing for a while, and I did think, you know, Joe Biden wins the next few days. Arizona was huge. If Arizona is a state, Pennsylvania, win Michigan and Wisconsin, and Joe Biden is the president, and I'm assuming a one-district electoral vote in Nebraska there. If that happens, let's say they win Pennsylvania, that means they can lose Michigan or Wisconsin, and they don't even need that one electoral vote in Nebraska, and that's assuming North Carolina, Florida, Ohio. And I'm talking horse race stuff here because that's what this is tonight. This is not about, you know, all the or Trump. But if this happens, then we think Donald Trump has to give a concession speech. Is that Pennsylvania and Wisconsin count in reverse of how Florida counted today. So all of their absentee ballots, there are a million those about 10,000 an hour. That's about how many they count. So it takes a while for them to get there. But my location
district in Nebraska or the district in Maine or both, and loses Pennsylvania, and then he's up 270 to 268 or 271 to 267. And then first of all, we have to hope there aren't faithless electors, right? And then that legal challenge. We're a crazy country. But the other thing is, if Joe Biden ends up winning, if he wins Pennsylvania, or let's say he doesn't, but Joe Biden is still and wins Wisconsin. By 8 million votes, right? By 5, 6%, and 8 million votes. And I think that is critically important to remember, because that will end up being the focus, not the insanity of the Electoral College, because while it would make us sweat out a night or a week, in the end, as Michael said, the elected president won the popular vote, and that's what people will focus.
Well, I think, look, if it ends up like 270, 268, I think that in theory, if we get a month out and it turns out that, you know what, we're actually going to go with those results, then sure, I think we can look at the millions of votes, separate the two, and that'll create, you know, a justifiable sense of legitimacy. Even once you deduct a few million votes from California, which don't count for some reason. I don't understand why, but those don't count. But anyway, that's assuming we get there, because look, we do have to worry about faithless electors. We also have to worry about some I don't know exactly which state legislature it would be deciding that, no, they're just not going to actually go with the popular vote. They're going to send their own a suite of electors. That's a possibility. Pennsylvania is going to be counting over the next 5 days. And look, as much as I love Cenk, I feel like at a variety of times throughout today's coverage, he has forgotten about the fact that the way Pennsylvania is playing out, we knew exactly that it was going to go this way. We don't know exactly where it's going to end up. But we knew that it was likely that Donald Trump was not only going to appear to be up on election night, but potentially up by quite a bit. About a week ago, we did a video on the Damage Report where we used sample numbers. I think that 538 was throwing around, and we showed the massive shift that could happen day of to a couple days later. It could be a swing of 15 or more
it looks like Trump has a really good shot,
so
right?
we do have to bear that in mind. But we also know that Donald Trump at some point tonight is going to waddle out to the podium and declare victory, and they're going to try
And I brought that up in Raid. And this older lady that raids with us was like, "Can you shut up?" God damn.
Needle, for whatever it's worth, and I don't know how they got there. Neither does Nate Silver. The Nate Cohn, Nate Silver debate. Really, that's really the third debate that we never had.
I'm a Coner.
But that needle, which is probably stupid. And that we shouldn't have it, but it has moved from.
I guess it all depends on
90% Trump, and then
how many of those mail-in votes were Democrat. They say that most of them weren't.
Yeah.
With a prediction of because Biden is now up by 0.4 of a point. So with
you really think he's gonna win?
The counties around and in that encompass
Trump,
Atlanta
right?
And the suburbs, obviously coming in. So if he wins Georgia. And Arizona, well, then the frustration of the early part of the night was just that, or early frustration, because you were down 13-0 in the first quarter, but then you went into the fourth quarter up 24-13.
Are you going to be okay if Trump wins, Jay?
I appreciate that.
I know you're a little bit liberal.
That's at least one I'm vaguely familiar with.
Ben, you're a cartoon character. I don't know what you know about this, but the point is,
I'll be okay.
You're
if
absolutely
anybody
right.
wins, even Kanye.
This is
everybody will be okay.
2018.
That's the thing.
A lot of the early stuff, everybody thought.
I get so worked up over something
after Donald Trump was elected, we're going to win in Florida and Georgia. We're going to win in South Carolina.
But you may not be able to get married if Trump wins.
But it didn't happen until later in the night. It's not going to be that same kind of a monumental victory. But you'll remember Democrats being Democrats. The day after, they were saying, "Well, it didn't really feel as good as I wanted it to feel."
Yeah.
They won the House of Representatives. It's a perfect example of how, if this does go into the Democrats' favor later on, it's a perfect example of how that is the most important thing: winning the House, playing defense against Donald Trump, winning the White House, and then having a new agenda.
America just won't be as great.
Yeah, I want to agree with Adrian, though, that, look, if 6 months from now he won, and he won by 20 votes or 10 votes or whatever.
Like, the only people I feel bad,
he won, sure. But
during this election, and if Trump wins, are like African Americans. Only because I think they have this insane idea that if Biden wins, racism is going to go away, which I really don't think so.
All of America, aside from those owning red hats, coming out and saying no. Like, we reached that line and we've crossed it. I don't know exactly who, for each individual, what it was, if it was the kids in cages, if it was whatever. But we're not going to have that even if Biden wins. And in terms of his ability to do further damage, as the essentially unchecked most powerful person in the world, we'll have gotten rid of a lot of that. But not having his movement be rejected, knowing that they're still lurking out there, that they didn't have a problem with the racism, they didn't even have a problem with him doing everything he could to kill them, that is not it's not a place I want to be at as a country. I was naive enough, even at this point, to wake up and think that would be rejected. And maybe it will in the
How are they still not calling Florida in some polls?
Sense that would have sent a strong signal around the world that that's not who we are. It still sort of seems like that's kind of who we are, even if Biden wins.
Yep, it definitely does seem it's very much who we are. And unfortunately, I think we have to recognize that and actually do something about it, because clearly nothing's changed. And there are people who are looking to preserve the racism, the sexism, the classism, the criminality, and make sure that they are still entitled to have access to those things, to make sure that people are subjugated and beneath them, and to preserve that sense of supremacy and I'm better than you. And it's very divisive and it's very unfortunate, especially since these people are part of the 99% and many of them are struggling. Yet it means more to them to hold on to that than to reach out and grab an opportunity to do better and have opportunities for themselves, their family, to have better health care, better chances. But hey, that's what they prefer over anything. And that is very scary.
Yeah, well, to do that, you're going to have better messaging, better candidates. With bigger, bolder ideas than let's bring the country together. That's what I would have done. I get why Joe Biden did it. He was the perfect candidate to do that in this time. But, the anecdotal stories irritate me more than anything in the election season. I saw a bunch of Biden signs in Westchester County, whatever. Don't care. Not interested. Doesn't matter. Now, I was talking to some young people, and they.
That's the best kind of it.
They didn't care. Like, they did not feel that either party had any interest in them. And I think it's fair to say that there are a lot of young people who felt this way. They just turned 18, these kids. So I think that somehow, if that's going to happen, Adrian, if we're going to get people to recognize it, that message has to be spread in a different manner than Democrats are comfortable doing it, unless they get a person with magic potions, right? Unless they stumble on another Barack Obama. This guy entered the room and lit it up and was magnetic, right? And gifted politically in so many ways. Short of that, they got to convey this message better and get people, if they want that young turnout, which will overwhelmingly be Democrat, to get behind them. And I think win or lose, that's the soul searching that is necessary and unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
Right. That won't happen. I mean, if you could, when they dissect this election, they're going to look at Florida. They're going to look at socialism. They're going to see that Cubans, Colombians, and Venezuelans don't just vote Democrats because you think they're going to vote Democratic. They're going to look at some of these industrial states and realize why white union workers really are fine voting for this guy. And then they're going to examine the cult of personality, which we probably won't have again for quite a while with Donald Trump. These people that bought into it, like it, and want to own.
You broke the sound barrier? What?
We make fun of that whole thing, owning the libs, but it's real, and they're people that just like Donald Trump because of who he beats if he wins, and I think that's important too. But again, to me, it's these things don't matter right now. What matters is seeing him lose, and if he loses, then it's a good thing, and you worry about that later. You're not going to have a nearly octogenarian candidate as your nominee again. But this is exactly why, I thought that the people voted for Joe Biden as they thought that he was the one best capable of beating Donald Trump. We'll know that, I guess, in a few days. But it's why I thought he was always going to be the nominee. And that was the bet they made. And I don't know that Biden was able to sway enough of those people, certainly in some of the states. But the states where it matters most are still yet to tally.
Before we go to a break, John, and I know we have to, just because Michael said owning the libs, remind people what the newly elected member of Congress.
Yeah, I was actually going to start on the next one.
McGregor.
So Madison Cawthorn, this is what we'll talk about when we come back from our first break. He's been elected. He's going to be, I believe, the youngest person ever elected to Congress, and his first tweet
Hold on, why does it show Virginia going to Biden if it also shows Trump had more votes
there?
there?
That's your topic of conversation. We're going to take a short break. We come back. We're going to try to work out that whole thing.
Do you guys see that?
Colonel, I guess he's always going to be a colonel. It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little.
So then how can they say it went to Biden?
But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new TwoStrongCoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind.
How's that
it
possible?
was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at 2strongcoffee.
Yeah, but if Trump had a 2% lead. they know that the missing votes would close that gap for Biden?
2020 is everything. Everything will be decided in 2020.
Okay, that doesn't really make any sense.
Or we'll have optimism.
There is some good news when it comes to elections throughout the country, especially for progressives.
He's struggling in polls. He's trailing Joe Biden in many of these battleground states. And he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic, well, maybe it'll give him an edge over Biden.
We need to get rid of these people who are in office, who enable these systems that continue to oppress us. Start using your votes and your dollars for the people who want to preserve your community and your humanity.
Defiance is what you need in order to fight for what you know is right. The fight never ends.
Progressive candidates come on this show, we help them, and they've at least got a fighter's chance.
Expand the squad.
Here we go, Squad 2.0. Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
This time, it's real. If he wins another term, God knows what he'll do to our government, our democracy, and our way of life.
We need solidarity, and it begins with you.
Who's gonna fix it? Who's gonna fix it? Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now.
This looks like a conspiracy. This looks
What'd
like
you do,
a scheme
girl?
to defraud.
The Bush administration put folks into the regulatory agencies who believed in destroying regulation.
Memories of the day they stood on the floor of the Senate day after day attacking what they were trying to do.
What did you do?
All this junk, took home huge bonuses, and then when it collapsed, they said, "Oh, not us."
What they ginned up was
Oh wow, Trump's actually leading in Iowa.
to the head of Congress.
Time and again, they heard the devastation.
Oh, great job, Holden. Proud of you.
Caused by bank
Life.
lenders, and they chose to ignore.
I understood that the SEC was not merely weakened version of what it was supposed to be. It was an agent of Wall Street.
Why does the New York Times map suck then? Like, they're taking forever to call states that have already been called elsewhere.
Why don't you write him a letter and ask him, bro?
I'll send a raven. Dude, that reminds me how shitty Game of Thrones was. It's so overrated. Yeah. Just one of the boys. But she did have a face of a dude, though. She has a nice tatas.
Who's cute?
The chick that played the guy, girl, whatever, just one of the guys.
Damn, bro, this rotation's difficult, bro. It's only a
So we got a million things to talk about. Let's just briefly mention the fact that Madison Cawthorne thing
What
actually
rotation for what class?
I think we should be pleased that he didn't say "suck it, libs." Like that's. He thought. Oh, that's
I like the Ellie Shaman playstyle. I mean, it's simple, but I don't know. It just feels good to play it.
I would have preferred that actually. I find it to be less pathetic. I think
freaking
that the
single target rotation
He
is
an
like
overwhelming favorite.
on my
Like,
thing
wasn't
has
there
like
a second?
freaking 11 different
So he
things.
just so
in
you know
position.
he knew he was going to win. He was
Probably
Really?
easier. It's probably easier than they make it seem, but
in his like tweet ready to go.
I guess it depends on what talents you pick.
It just said lib.
Maybe talking. Maybe he's talking to his friend Libby.
Was it one person? And this, like, whatever has become the American Republican idea.
I made my GM take my warlock to the first boss of Mythic. He was like, no, because then I have to have other people get on alts. And I said, well, you haven't even let me kill the last boss on my main, so I'm gonna switch anyway. He didn't do anything when I switched, and he let me stay on to kill it. Oh no.
The tiers of lives, and a lot of people responded, "No, John, they're gonna."
That's how valuable I am, Holden.
And I want to respond. No, I get it. I get that they love it. They have been trained to think that government is just there to hurt their political opponents and make them feel bad, and that's it. And that will last, I think, for a long time. But I have to imagine that at some point, the salty tiers of lives aren't going to take care of your student loan debt. They're not going to insure your family. They're not going to buy you a house. Your economic situation is not going to improve. Can they be duped forever to just subsist on the tears of their foes? Or does that have an expiration date at some point? The massive Hawthorne grift that will now be, it's a Trump thing, obviously, and not duplicated by more people. Is that going to work forever? Is that just a part of American politics now?
No, it's not. What is it? It's petty is not a solid foundation for a democracy. And these idiots out here actually think that, hey, I one-upped you or I showed you what it was and flexing and whatnot is going to do something for the nation. And when they finally hit the point that they actually realize that we're supposed to be working together, we're going to have no infrastructure whatsoever and have completely fallen apart as a nation. So if they need to learn the hard way, the crummy part is that we're all going to fall apart in the process.
I mentioned this last hour, Adrian, but since you brought up infrastructure, Mark Meadows was on the air tonight, and the question was asked of him if Trump went early tonight. And we know as Trump was doing particularly well, and he was asked what would a second Trump term look like, and the first thing he said was, well, if we'd start with an infrastructure bill. I mean, it was like the last 4 years didn't happen.
Did he laugh after he said it, or?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, why'd you roll that? So Ohio has been called for the president. Did you mention that?
Yeah. So okay. So
how do I spend Maelstrom?
So is Iowa.
So Iowa's been good. So that seems pretty guaranteed. So Ohio has been called.
But the big story by far is what's happening in Georgia.
Georgia as well. I also want to throw out that apparently Fox News has retracted their call for Biden in Arizona. That's a
really?
thing, I guess. I guess we'll be watching it.
I didn't believe them to begin with.
No, we needed somebody else. There somebody else did, or maybe they were just echoing Fox. That's entirely possible.
It doesn't, like, I'm looking at it and it's not.
NBC just said that one of the news networks called it for Biden already, and people are pissed about it.
I don't know who's in charge of making that decision, but apparently they've retracted it. And again, someone in the chat is asking, Rob Doe's asking, you can retract a call. Of course you can. It doesn't mean anything. Like all these.
But I don't see how they're saying that Biden is winning. I mean, based on what they have available right now, because.
Move at this point. But what's happening in Georgia right now as well that you noticed?
Well, but again, we become reliant on these guys we've never met and whose methodology, the overwhelming majority.
Are the Turks going crazy, bro?
I love politics. I grew up with it, but I don't know what it is. Now, we trust pollsters. We don't really understand their methodology, but we figure they're scientists.
Is he sweating again?
But anyway, what was an 85% likelihood, or I think over 90 for a time, that Trump would win North Carolina has now been moved to a more likely Biden victory. That the range.
I love that chick in my guild was like, "Can you shut up?"
And they have Biden as
and all I said was, "Man, it looks like Trump has an actual shot."
Georgia, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Georgia. Yeah. Everything I said about North Carolina, forget that. Replace Georgia.
Yeah, bro, Earthshock.
So that is a
what the hell does
gigantic
Maelstrom do?
development with the 16 electoral votes at stake. And then all of a sudden,
You can spend it on Earthshock or Earthquake, which does a lot of AoE.
Michigan.
I'm not.
I think Earthquake's OP, man. It has a chance to knock down enemies and shit.
In terms of Michigan, but man, it's if Biden does lose Michigan, like the polls were not close in Michigan.
Not close.
They were not close at all. This isn't quite as big a mistake as the 2016 Bernie win, which was in Michigan, but I mean, there were many polls with Biden up 8, 9, 10 points, even more.
I think his final thing was 7.4 was the aggregate there on 538.
Yeah, which is, you know, that is a good jump more than a 2016 polling
They
error
actually
for you to be
summon
wrong.
that fucker.
It's, I suppose, still possible. I imagine that as the count continues, that probably won't happen. But we've got a lot of things moving in different directions.
Yeah, it's tough, like, especially the turn-in that you have to go back to base to do.
Well, the thing that kind of caught my eye was just, number one, the kind of necessary delays that we need in terms of slowing people down and making them realize that there are a lot of ballots out there that are going to be counted later in the week. And so not to necessarily
The problem is that
settle in with these
people, I don't know how it is now, but in Ultramec Valley, they always try to rush the boss. But it's better to go back and recap the towers.
It is heartwarming. And then them having issues with the absentee ballot counts. I guess in Georgia's largest county, Fulton County, that there was a burst pipe. So that's going to delay the count. So a lot of these things are giving me some comfort.
I don't think he's that big on
For
retail.
the next few days, but it doesn't make it any less traumatic.
Yeah.
You're in retail? Oh, I
trauma.
thought you just said you were in classic.
Feeling this to some extent across the political spectrum, you know. But I mean, the emotional blows of this year have been constant, and you know, and we've gotten used to some extent to the pandemic and you know.
Are you streaming on Twitch?
Aware that, you know, coming up on 240,000 Americans.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's illegal.
The whole thing has been brutal, and so even these early results, it really felt like I would share one thing real quick. When my father died back in 2014, and he got sick.
I want to see what Hassan's saying.
Food, and he aspirated, and they took him to the hospital, and all of a sudden blood pressure, and they're like,
I don't even know who Hassan is. Hold on.
So I flew across the country, and
Oh my God.
on the plane, and I'm walking, and the flight attendant was so good. We talked for a couple hours.
Is he really?
And that's how I felt tonight. Like, I went out and walked the dog, and I was like, I remember last time I felt this. This is a sense that I was in the air, and my dad was there. And, you know, and I tried to take deep breaths to sort of get through that. And I thought, Jesus, this is 50 billion times worse for people who don't have work.
Nice aspect ratio, hold on.
More than I have from this pandemic. So anyway, to Adrian's point,
Holy shit.
the psychological damage that has been done over the course of the last.
He's not that size on retail, I promise you.
Yeah, and in a wider sense, the last few years. I was talking on the damage report about some op-ed that I saw that
The Ice Lord and AV.
obviously all of the damage that's been done legislatively in terms of our fight against the climate crisis, all that.
And I think he's like, you can kill him very quickly too.
Like, think about the cost that can never be calculated of what it
Yeah, but then how come no one's killing him?
and a good portion of the world spent, bare minimum, assuming
Oh, it's like scaled to
almost
classic?
half a decade thinking about Donald Trump all the time. Like that's what our thoughts and our emotions, our anxieties, our depression was wrapped up around. Insert any other thing that we could have all thought about, any other individual, any other reality star, any waste of time.
Look how big
it
that
would have been better served. It would have been more
motherfucker
productive for humanity. But instead, we spent 5 years that on a lot of topics we do not have to waste, thinking about one of the worst examples of humanity that we've had in a very long time. What a waste, what a loss.
I would just stop trying and just die laughing.
Around the country, because QAnon, you know, is sprouting up in other countries and all that. You know, he's encouraging the development and expansion of far-right parties in other countries as well.
Isn't there also like a pack of like,
at his worst,
it's like these writers that go out?
to be like that.
Yeah, those guys are pretty badass too, I think.
I actually don't think that's his. I don't think that's his worst. I think that's his normal.
And then I think there's also like a Griffin,
I'm
isn't
concerned
there?
about what his worst may look like, but I think you're absolutely right in terms of how all-consuming this has been, and wondering what's the next, you know, trauma, heinous act that he's going to take. How does that make us look?
Wait, are you
abroad?
Alliance
Also,
here,
how
Holden?
is it going to, unfortunately,
It lets you
really
play
mess up
Alliance
people's
when you're
lives?
actually Horde.
And it's just, I don't know, it's exhausting. I
Ah.
don't think I've ever been as locked in on an administration
How'd you get in there,
my
pussy?
life. But also something to know, as we discussed about Fox News, as Yashar is explaining right now on Twitter, is that Fox News did not retract their Arizona call. Apparently, Karl Rove was just casting doubt on a Fox panel, and that they still maintain that they call
You stand right next to him, you just see these pebbles, like, or stones running around.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Okay, so you're saying I shouldn't trust the things that I see from the people I follow on Twitter. Okay.
That's right. They don't. What do they know? So, Jason Miller says it's way too soon to be calling Arizona. I always believe Jason Miller.
Why don't you move your quest log, dude? Or your quest objectives.
To declare victory tonight before the votes are counted.
To the right
What
side.
gets me too is that these guys, so many of these guys working for Trump, they're incompetent.
Along the
And
edge.
Yet, right? Exactly, Adrian. We're we're simpatico here. Like what? Yet. So many people have told me, and you read about it too, that they just want to go 5 straight days without having any idea what the president is up to or what he's doing, right? You just want to be like, hey, the president's at the G8. I don't know, oh, whatever.
You can heal the Ice Lord, right?
Doing some economic stuff.
Oh yeah, I see like the rejuve going off. It's a massive one.
You could go too far down that road, and I am worried about the people who are invested in the outcome of this election. That
He's
go
got
back to
that shield, yeah.
It would be nice to not have like the taste of bile in your mouth for months.
I also I gotta say, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. You know, like there's still a really realistic possibility that Donald Trump is reelected.
Oh, definitely.
Man, I might play an AV game tomorrow or something.
So we still have a good bit of time this hour, but I want to make sure that we don't miss this. Adrian, we were talking during the break about one of the ballot initiatives that you wanted to focus on. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, Oregon has become the first
That's it?
in which they have decriminalized non-commercial possession
That is kind of sweet.
So that's
What is that font? It looks like ass.
Oregon, but
There.
measure that passed, Measure 110, it eliminates all
Jesus Christ.
for a low-level possession of drugs that Oregon continues to ban. So that includes heroin, cocaine, meth, psychedelics, LSD, and that's really a positive thing in part because, you know, that's one of the ways in which Portugal helped reduce their drug problem by decriminalizing it so that people can go on getting the help that they need. And also, too, a lot of these drugs are some
You're
of them
dropping frames. I don't know if it's, maybe it might be me though.
were only criminalized for what racist purposes like marijuana, which is still, you know, illegal at the federal level. So this is a really good sign in terms of progress and change, and I am here for it.
Yeah, and you know, you just think about the number of people who've been locked up for years and years, decades, because they had illegal drugs that they planned to use for themselves or give to their friends, right? Obviously, if you're running a drug ring operation and you're selling and producing meth, if you're, you know, I can't believe, like Walter White. Well, how long has it been? I can't. This is how bad 2020's been. I couldn't remember the lead character from Breaking Bad. But yeah, and the Oregon legislation doesn't. The referendum 110. It doesn't mean that's not still a crime. But we change an entire system. It would be revolutionary to not be sending mostly men, frequently young men, to prison over the most important years of their life. There's no telling what that could do positively for the country. As Adrian said, that's what happened in Portugal.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if it was mentioned earlier in the show, but I'm glad that Adrian brought this up because, of course, we're, you know, sort of hyper-focused on most of the presidential race, also some Senate seats and things like that. But the ballot initiatives are incredibly important. Florida looks like it's almost certainly gone for Trump, but it also, at the same time, somehow passed a ballot initiative to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, almost doubling it. It's going to take 6 years or 5 years to do that, but that is significant. Of course, to be fair, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Ballot initiatives passing in Florida doesn't mean that they'll actually become law. Apparently, Republicans get to decide if it actually happens or not. So we possibly have that to look forward to. But I also did want to just briefly take a look at some of the ballot initiatives here in California. Because there is still a good bit of the vote that we're going to need to get from California, but we've got over 7 million votes, so we've got somewhat of a sample. Some of these, like repealing the ban on affirmative action is losing right now, 45-55. Oh, now we're almost up to 9 million votes, actually. That's losing.
Wait, so which one is it? It's banning affirmative action?
So so right now, there is a ban on affirmative action. This would be a repeal.
And we're not repealing.
Right now, it looks like no. Probably not.
So we'll still have a ban on affirmative action.
Yes.
I need you to explain this to me very carefully.
Okay.
I'm sure I voted the right way, although
I'm not so sure, actually.
The great thing about the California, I don't mean to minimize the importance of that because it's insane that we banned it in the first place. It was action taken from it. And so the ballot in California has all these propositions. So throughout, it was like question 22, Prop 21, question 23, Prop 22. And you're like, who designed this? Right?
Why not have them line up?
Please alphabetize these guys. It was literally one off through the whole way through. Oh, this is question 17. It's ballot issue 18. Insane. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Little diatribe there. Thanks for indulging me.
Okay, so far it's not definitive, but so far it looks like that ban, which I think was passed in the early 90s here in California. It looks like the ban is probably likely at this point to stand.
Joni Ernst has won re-election in the Senate.
Great.
So that was we're not going to win the Senate. I mean, Democrats are not. I mean, I guess it's possible, but picked up Arizona and picked up Colorado, lost Alabama. So right now it's 52-48. You'd have to get to 50-50 to put and make Kamala Harris essentially set up for losing in the United States Senate.
Yeah.
Sure. But that requires two more. If Biden is coming back in he's not going to be back in North Carolina. It's tell us, which is unbelievable. So it's going to be really hard. Greenfield is a good candidate. Joni Ernst is going to win. It's Trump.
Yeah. Okay, so really fast, I just want to point out a couple of these because I know a lot of people have been asking me for the past month or so about how they should vote on these. In terms of expanding the vote, giving the vote to felons on parole is winning right now 60-40, so that's good. But for some reason, a ballot initiative that would allow those who are going to be 18 during a general election to also vote in the primary that produces candidates for that general election is losing 46-54. I guess that's a bridge too far. People being able to vote in a primary that they will then vote in the general for, that's too radical. We can't have that.
Oh, goodness.
We elect 2 federal officers in the United States of America. I don't know whether you guys know this, but one is the president and the other one is the vice president. And the notion that each state gets to decide their own manner of how this process happens is crazy. I mean, part of reforming the Electoral College, which must be done, and all the smart people who are making arguments against it and why the direct vote is dangerous, and it should come with a complete reformation of policy for those federal offices. To me, that would also include your senators and congressmen because they then affect policy of other states. But at a bare minimum, President of the United States, it has to be exactly the same in every state. Big government, has to come in and regulate that and make that fair. That's the only way to do it. You want to figure out a way to elect dog catchers your own way, all the way up to governor. Have at it, Hoss. But it is outrageous that the president and vice president get elected in different ways in different states. And for that matter, as I said, same with the Senate and the House, I think.
By the way, it looks like Florida has been called, at least according to the New York Times a few minutes ago. By the way, I'm seeing some chat that Biden is speaking. I don't know if we have plans to or the capacity to go to that, but if that's a thing, feel free to have Edwin flag me down for that.
He said we believe we're on track to win this election.
Okay, yeah, I can sort of see that.
And I like that if he got out first, if that's what's happening.
That's true.
Because Trump might speak.
I think there's a chance, actually. He usually is. So really fast, many of you live in states that are unlike California. A lot of you live in countries where they don't have ballot initiatives like this. But we do, and in California, we allow countless millions of dollars to be spent on them. And if you've watched TV in California over the past couple of months, you've probably seen ads around a few of these propositions. And so I've been watching those and noting that the ads are incredibly dishonest about what the ballot initiatives would actually do. And I've been wondering ever since, how are we going to go on some of those? So the ones that I saw the most ads for, there were two.
Damn, dude, this is going to be close.
23 ads requirements for dialysis clinics. You'd have to have doctors there, and there are certain requirements if you're going to shut down.
You think Trump's going to win decisively?
They have had so many ads implying that this would be an unbearable burden on these dialysis clinics that have had a lot of problems for a very long time. Years ago, John Oliver had an amazing episode about dialysis clinics. And right now, it's at yes 37 to add those requirements, no 63. So those ads, which put people who are on dialysis or need dialysis in front of your face every moment for literally weeks now. It looks like those worked. And
the thing got me, it appeared that both sides suggested, and I don't mean to make, these are people very sick and they need dialysis, but just from watching the ads, as a ballot initiative, it struck you that both decisions would kill people.
Yeah, they were both presented as killing people.
Yeah, they're both presented as killing people. And it's another thing why ballot initiatives, there is a value to them in some cases, there's no question. But this is an important, complicated issue, right? That
all the fucking trolls on Hassan's chat.
Represent us in the California Assembly, that maybe they ought to handle
what?
Issues, right? I mean, that's the idea of it. But the ballot initiatives, and it makes, you know, guys.
Oh, like sometimes I like Hassan because he's a good sport about like.
So you know, Adrian, she can
making fun of both sides.
I don't have a law background. And so there's that, and then 22 was the best example. I don't remember the exact breakdown of the ads for or against, but I believe it was, I think, more than $200 million to define app-based drivers as contractors. So for things like Uber and Lyft and other services like this, all of these,
like Grubhub and stuff.
Grubhub and stuff like that. So all of these ads presented as, if you don't pass this, these extra benefits they're going to give the drivers won't happen. And they want to have the freedom to still be contractors. And all of that, and by the way, all the money was coming from those companies, which seemed odd considering all the people in the ads were drivers. I thought that was so weird. When, of course,
well, Biden seems confident that he's going to win Pennsylvania, and if he does that, it's really, really close.
Actual employees and have the companies actually have an obligation to give them a living wage, give them benefits and things like that. Right now, it's at yes 58, no 43. And so it looks like the hundreds of millions of dollars that they spent to pass this, that will invariably, I would assume, based on their behavior, they've estimated that it will save them far more than hundreds of millions of dollars. It looks like 22 is going to pass.
I had a conversation with two progressives over the course of about an hour this weekend. Both of them voted yes because their experience with drivers was that drivers wanted this and they didn't want to be told they have to work 8 hours in Pasadena on Tuesday, that the freedom was the whole reason they became an Uber driver. It was incredibly persuasive, and I went into the polling place. These are serious progressives. And I went into the polling place ready to vote yes on it. And then I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I voted no. But yeah, it was hard. It was tricky because it did seem to take some freedom of choice in a gig economy that seemed to appeal to drivers. But literally every progressive organization said vote no, including the ACLU. The ACLU guided me in almost every one of these votes.
Yeah.
And you're not alone in that. My assistant is also an Uber driver, which is how I met her. And she had told me that she is really a proponent of continuing to be able to enjoy this gig economy and to continue to drive as she wanted, when she wanted. And so I get it and I understand it, but at the same time, I just know it's so wrong how these companies are leveraging and exploiting people and paying them low nominal wages. But it sucks because these people are willing to accept that just so that they can scrounge to survive. And it should not be that way. And John, to the millions of dollars that they spent on advertising, it was disgusting opening the app and seeing them, throw it at you and say, hey, vote this way. And when you just knew it was their way of avoiding circumventing the law, because it's already been ruled upon, but they are fighting so hard to change that. And, these rideshare companies, they really do not want to have to do what they should do.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I don't have any doubt that there are people who feel the same way as those progressives or the driver you know. I would argue there's a way to do it so that you can work a couple of random hours and be a contractor, but for those who work full-time, they should be treated as employees. I feel like we could work that out hypothetically, but what I do know is that Uber and Lyft and Grubhub and Postmates and all of that didn't spend all this money because they're very worried about people being obligated into working longer shifts. I don't think it was about freedom for the drivers. I really don't. I think it was in their economic interest, and unfortunately, the ads are incredibly dishonest. They have this thing at the end of the ads where they show who is paying for them, which is up there for like 2 seconds, and it looks like it won.
A couple of things I'd like to bring up. Dauphin County, Harrisburg. This is from a guy named Lewis Jacobson tweeted this, but it's been quote tweeted here, or it's included in the coverage from 538. Almost all the votes are counted. Biden leads 53-45 in 2016. Clinton won at 49-46. He suggested that if rural counties end up with margins similar to the ones they posted here, anyway, that urban and suburban ones move left, that's going to be a win for Joe Biden in Pennsylvania, which is obviously.
Jay, did you install that script that,
by the way,
they brought up on that one page for the Twitch ads?
That was it. That was the whole tweet.
I'm thinking about doing it. These fucking mid-roll ads are driving me insane.
Biden said, this is all from Katie Gluck, the New York Times.
Fuck you, although I'm not going to use VLC.
Biden said Kamala Harris will speak tomorrow. He spoke very briefly, projected optimism, even as many Democrats are deeply anxious about the results so far. He said, in addition to saying we believe we're on track to win this election, he said we're going to win Pennsylvania. And he got out there. I mean, he did it before Trump. That's something. That's good. But I mean, Cenk talks about strength, right? That was, he didn't say, well, we don't know. I'm not going to say anything. They were like, here's the deal. We're winners. We're going to win.
Really fast, I want to give you the full Trump tweet.
Because it wasn't just we're up big?
No. We're up big, but they are trying to steal the election. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed.
Well, they haven't.
Well, they haven't been.
Good
and
news.
They won't be.
Good news, Don.
Nobody's talking about
Don,
that.
You know what? You're going to be so pleased because that hasn't happened. So, are you good?
Yeah, and of course, a lot of his fans and the replying to it that, yeah, that's true. No, that's not. That doesn't
happen. It's fine. You shouldn't count any votes that were cast after the polls closed. I'm for that.
Oh, God. And so, again, like, there was a possibility.
Why is he wearing a Bernie shirt?
That this election could have gone the way we feel we deserved is a thing.
Hassan.
Because he's a fucking communist.
I'm looking at this.
Jesus.
And I feel like this was pretty predictable. That in theory we'd be waiting on Pennsylvania, and it looks like it's going to take us a couple of days for us to know. Arizona flipping is pretty good, but there was a good chance that happens. Texas, it turned out, didn't flip. It was a long shot. Florida looked like a better chance than Texas, but Florida's Florida. So, and Georgia maybe could go Biden, but that was always going to be difficult. I don't know that a lot about this map is really looking all that shocking. I think we all wanted something bigger, something better, and even Trump, the way he's coming out and saying that he obviously means them counting the vote after the night of shouldn't be allowed. We knew he was going to do that too. Like, I feel like this is the script is sort of playing out here.
This election is so different from every other election that I've been a part of, or that I grew up paying attention to, or that my dad was a part of, and he and I talked about. But I mean, 72% of the vote is in Wisconsin. Trump leads by 4. 64% is in Pennsylvania. Trump leads by 15. 57's in Michigan. Trump leads by 8. 5%'s in Nevada. Trump leads by 50. So I get it that but like under any normal circumstances, you'd be like, well, we've been defeated. Right. Trump
and that could still be the case.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, we know that Pennsylvania, the early vote, we're still waiting. Supposedly at midnight we're going to get a little bit of that, but we're not going to get the vast majority of it until tomorrow or the next day or the next day.
I like it that it's like Pennsylvania is dropping an album. And
I know.
Like, we're going to release a track Sunday night.
I do hate
another one next Saturday, and then the whole thing will come out on Tuesday just to get people super excited.
And look, Wisconsin says that Milwaukee is going to be the last to report, but we might not get those results until 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. Wednesday. seems relevant for how Wisconsin is going to go. Yeah, I'm disappointed in a lot of ways. I am deeply disappointed in America, Americans, our system, what we think about our system. But this is kind of how it sort of seemed like it was probably going to go, I think.
I don't know.
I agree with you.
Go ahead, sorry,
and
Adrian.
something I think that is worth kind of maybe focusing on a little bit, because I think it's a happy place and it does signify some change, that there's been some historic moments tonight. Maureen Turner, 27-year-old Black, queer, progressive newcomer. She is now the first Muslim person elected to the Oklahoma State Legislature.
That's
Sarah McBride, first trans state senator in U.S. history, winning that Senate seat in Delaware. Richie Torres, Mondaire Jones, history, becoming the first openly Black men elected to Congress who are gay. And then Cori Bush becoming the first Black woman to represent Missouri in Congress. There's some signifying change there, which is pretty cool. We just hope that, you know, who they choose for the White House isn't, you know, just a borderline Klansman. But, you know, that's all we gotta hope.
that Cori Bush first, how is that possible? I mean, we know how it's possible. We know.
Are you kidding?
What America
yeah,
is,
Missouri.
but how is that possible?
Yeah, seriously. No.
By the way, a relevant result, not a call in any way, with 76% of the precincts reporting, and I guess the absentee votes, I don't know if it's all of them. Of course, we just don't know these things. But Christy Smith with a 3.4% lead, 8,000 votes over Mike Garcia. That, of course, the seat that the California 25th that Cenk ran for. I'd like to point out, which Cenk will enjoy, that the 24th and 26th have been called.
Yeah, I think I had called that for her. I don't remember if Cenk did. Interesting. By the way, we have reached the point of the night where Trump's first big tweet on election night has now been blocked to some extent by Twitter because it contains election misinformation that could potentially misinform people. But that's just our system. The
I bet they get the word out anyway.
Yeah, I think they got the message. Anyway, so we've reached the end of the hour. I actually do not know, are either or both of you staying on to the next hour?
Oh, God, no. I'm going to sleep. I'm taking this makeup off.
In that case, Adrian, any final thoughts on election night?
No, go to bed. Let's circle back on Friday. We'll talk about it. We'll see how everyone is.
Friday.
Brunch, mimosas, something nice.
Friday, man.
Yeah,
there's no way I'm going to sleep tonight. I am going to take my makeup off. I don't even have any scruff. I had to put this. That took forever.
Hair by hair. Elmer's
exfoliate.
glue.
Remember, exfoliate.
Yeah, thank you. Good.
Okay.
All right, Adrian. You know, we've never met, so it's nice to do we never did a show together in studio. But so anyway, nice to talk to you.
Thank you. And
I was talking to Adrian, John.
What's that?
I was talking to Adrian.
Yeah, I know. No, me too. No, it was great to talk to you. No, we haven't done a show together in like 8 months, but not for lack of trying. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna take a short break. We come back, more to get to, potentially some more misinformation that will have to be shielded.
Across the map are going to be so tight and so close that it is likely going to be very difficult to call this on election night.
The twin forces behind the Biden candidacy, the billionaires and the Bolsheviks.
Arizona, 19 million. For the vice president, 9 million, a little over 9 million for President Trump.
We are desperate for Donald Trump to not be president anymore because he's fascist and is a threat to our democracy. And we said that from day one. Yes, we want Biden to beat Trump. Is that clear enough?
It is increasingly difficult for the American public to get any sort of truth.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
You want to know how you can save money and save the planet? Hello, I got an awesome option for you guys. Aspiration.com/TYT. You plant not 1, not 5, 10 trees when you sign up. You know what trees do? Not a big deal, but one large tree can provide a day's supply of oxygen for up to 4 people. That's 40 people's oxygen just by signing up at aspiration.com/TYT. Sign up for a free spend and save account right now at aspiration.com/TYT.
Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now.
Oh, this guy just linked an egg in chat.
Yeah, people have been doing that shit.
Pandemic right now. We are.
It has to be a WoW icon though.
TYT healthy. How do you do that? Want to be able to keep doing it.
I don't. Oh, Bitter's linked to it. One sec.
We're trying to raise $2 million overall, 200,000 a month if we can. If you can, and only if you can, tyt.com/go. Seriously, because we can't sustain this show without you. So thank you for making all this possible.
Where else can I feel as free as I do here to do what I do? And I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it weren't for all the people who have really carried us throughout the years.
You're our ultimate boss. We report to you guys, and if you don't like what we're doing on air or we're not telling the truth, boom, you fire us.
We're not the Young Turks.
Careful, they might ban you though.
Alive, healthy, wonderful, awesome,
Damn, bro.
independent,
I'm out. Later.
Keep it all.
Later, bro.
In fact, we have a new theme. Press on. Get it? It's a double meaning. tyt.com/go.
Hey y'all, Rosario Dawson here, wondering if you are ready to VOTE. If you're physically going to the polls, make sure you know the correct location and what time it opens and closes. Did you know that if you were online at the time the polls close, you can still vote? Make sure you have a voting plan ready with all the ID, hand sanitizer, and face masks you need to be safe. And to be extra safe, maybe even bring some comida because it might be a long wait. If you are voting by mail, have you requested a ballot yet? If not, go to usa.gov/absentee-voting and it will come in the mail right to you if there is still time. Otherwise, maybe you're in one of the 21 states or District of Columbia where you can do same-day voter registration. Because if you are eligible to vote, vote. Vote for those who can't but need leaders who care about them. Latinos could be the largest minority group in the electorate, and young Latinos could swing the outcome, but only if you come out and vote.
Back on the Young Turks, Jay Huger, John Idarola, Michael Shore, and Nando Vila joins us. Hey,
Aw, Chunk's here.
See you. There's our 4-box. It looks good. Michael is not only in a limo, but he's the limo driver, I see.
12 hours a week. That's all I work, 12 hours a week.
He's driving a British limo, I believe, actually.
Yeah. Just don't go past the 12 hours, Michael. We'll have issues. Okay. So, guys, I want to.
Dang, dude, I don't know who's gonna win.
State of the election right now, because
I don't know, bro.
I do know.
Break,
all those mail-in votes are gonna be Democrat.
I think that could give you clarity.
It doesn't matter. Even if he wins Pennsylvania, he still doesn't win.
Dive into some of the particular congressional elections as well. First, let me just say, I'm not sure we said it on air.
They're saying that Biden might have Georgia.
Biden ain't got fucking Georgia.
She will be the 10th Justice Democrat to go to Congress.
87% reporting, and he's down by 6%.
Was because
according to which poll are you looking at?
Very blue district.
That's reported numbers.
Win as expected tonight. We'll check back into the car
clink, clink, clink.
Race
Associated Press, bro.
Because she's neck and neck, and that one's really tight. Let me give just one shout out here to someone on Super Chat, Floyd Clark, said, to hell with the corporate media and what they think. Go on a warpath already. But Floyd, maybe we'll talk more about this in the last couple of hours of the coverage. But
AP News.
It's not as simple as that.
It's literally the first thing that shows up, like on that search.
I
I
love
just
Warpath. I'm literally named
There's a
War.
map and it shows
Jank
all of
Turkish
them.
means war. And so I'm not sure that it surprises any of you. But if you do, the rest of the media bans you.
Yeah.
Just flat out bans you. It doesn't. They're not listening to whether you're right or wrong. They're not listening to whether you're factual or not factual. They're not.
Oh, you're looking at a stream.
Logical. As soon as they hear
no, that's I linked a Google search. You just search election night coverage live on Google, and there's a map right there. The first thing that shows up.
Full ban.
We also have a call.
Okay, yes, calls are most important.
So according to the New York Times, Joe Biden has won Minnesota right now with 82% of the vote. He's up 54-44.
Yes, so that's gonna
like if you go to that link that I just clicked, or that link that I just put in there. What does it look like? This is what it looks like for me.
Thank you for using Super Chat. Everybody, all of you out there, we got nothing but love for you guys. I love that you're with us all night long, and not just for the passion on the
No, I don't get a map.
perspective, but for the analysis.
Damn, bro, fucking
too.
Canada.
Hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube to become a member. It makes all the difference.
Anyway, it has on there Georgia's 87% reporting, and Trump's up
all right,
2.27 million to 2 million.
Will be for just the members. So
52.2 to 46.5.
So you get those last 2 hours. We'll get to those in a little bit. But here, let me take you through the map, okay? And my summary here is Biden is very likely to win, and a Trump win is difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult. And a big-ish win is still possible for Joe Biden. He can still get over 300 electoral votes. So let's start there, and let's work our way towards a Trump win, but only in analysis, not in reality.
I like this 270 to win site.
So
it's interactive, so you can like just change it around however you want.
Minnesota is definitely Biden, and Ohio is definite, and Iowa are definitely Trump. We can get rid of those, and so here's what a big win looks like for Biden. He wins Pennsylvania, very possible. He wins Arizona, very likely. Georgia now apparently more likely than not, as John, Ben, and the others broke down for you in the last hour. He wins Nebraska second, which is again more likely. He wins Wisconsin, which is very likely. And he wins Michigan, which is likely. So I just told you all the states that are likely to go to Biden, and that would be a 307-231 win.
Where does he get
pretty good? Pretty good, and pretty possible. Now, here's the scenario.
We also have another call.
Oh, okay. Most important. Go ahead, John.
LA Times is calling Texas for Trump.
Ah, well, this late. Okay, we'll take it. So the fact that it's late is theoretically a good sign elsewhere, but there isn't much left in elsewhere. So, and it's certainly when Trump won Florida, I didn't think, and I don't think any reasonable person thought that Biden had any chance of winning Texas. So I'd already written that off in my mind a long time ago. Here's a scenario where you get to 269. Now, it's possible. Biden wins. Well, you see, but it's not. I don't want you to worry about 269 because I'm going to tell you something after that. But Biden wins Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona. Enormously possible. By the way, Arizona or Georgia. Either one. Then at that point, it sounds like 269. No, but at that point, all he has to do is win either one district in Maine or one district in Nebraska, and Biden wins the election because you just got to get to 270, right? And so that should be relatively easy. I guess at this point, Michigan is the most in doubt out of Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin, okay? And now finally, for Trump to win, he's got to win all of the above. He's got to win Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and then on top of that, he's got to win either Arizona or Michigan.
I don't like the 270 to win site because you can't mouse over the state and see the info.
Well, yeah, this is just a map you make yourself.
Even with the limited vote information that we have. So I wanted to get that out there so you guys understand where we are currently right now.
If you choose to give you that part of the site. The other one's actually showing you the live results.
When I last left you, where I thought Biden was going to win, but it was going to be close. Let me start by going to Michael. Michael, what's your take on that, and where that will then land? Do you think it lands closer to the middle, or do you think Biden actually gets above 300?
I mean, I think it lands probably closer to the middle. These polling realities are hitting home now. That yes, it's easy to look at the numbers that are coming in, the reverse count, and I say the reverse count because it's different than the way Florida came in, where they did the today's votes and then they went to the absentee ballots. I think that when you I'm sorry, in reverse, they did the absentee ballots and went to the today's votes. These upper Midwest states and Pennsylvania, where I am now, those states do it in a different order. So you're starting to see good numbers for Trump, but that's because they haven't counted the absentee ballots. And just so you know, there are over 1 million absentee ballots in Pennsylvania, and they're not all done coming in. So
Michael?
That still is.
Michael,
yeah.
Can I throw in a call? At least according to decision.
People are abusing that shit in trade chat.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. They're calling that Joe Biden will win Nebraska's 2nd district.
Yes. Now that's important for two reasons. One, that puts him over 269 in the scenario I just laid out for you. That if he's really won that, at that point, all he's got to do is bring home Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin, or Georgia.
Yeah, so Jay, Georgia changes the game entirely because he can lose 2 out of the 3 upper Midwest states if he gets Georgia, and presuming he does win Arizona, which I think has been called in some places already. One other thing to point out, and this is sort of throwing cold water on things a little bit, is that I would keep your eyes on Nevada. I'm not as bullish on Nevada right now as I would have been. That's not a ton of electoral votes, and if your sort of blue belt through the upper Midwest works, it doesn't matter. But in these close scenarios, it's one to keep an eye on. We sort of have it figured in for Biden, but it's not entirely safe to do that. Although I do think he's going to win, it's not entirely safe to do that just yet. But so I think your scenarios are right. I am very calm about this right now. I don't see a reason for craziness. The president is going to be making remarks shortly. He's teased that on Twitter. He says that he has won, and that they're going to try and steal the election over the next couple of days. He said, he also, he misspelled polls, of course, POLES. But the whole notion here is they're going to try and game the system now for the next few days. And I just spoke to a commissioner with the Philadelphia City Commission here who was telling me that they're going to be counting votes. They count 10,000 votes an hour, and there are a lot of votes to count. So that's going to be over the course of quite a while that they're going to be counting votes here in Pennsylvania, and this could be the state that decides it too.
Yeah. So, well, that gets us into the danger zone we were all worried about, which is Biden wins, but Trump doesn't concede, and starts to talk about how they're stealing the election. Like, so for the last, 12 hours or so, we've been living in our own bubble of reality. But we have to remember that soon the non-real bubble is going to push back. And so it's been a weird interregnum here where since Trump wasn't on TV and Fox News didn't have their Tucker Carlson's, Lauren Grimm's, etc., screaming into the ether about hoax, forgery, steal, Russiagate, theft, stop counting, right? Since at least I, being on air, was not exposed to that, we lived in a comfortable little reality for a second. Even when Biden looked like he was in bad shape, that didn't disrupt reality. That was just numbers that were bad for Biden. And if he had lost, we all would have been like, okay, he lost, and that sucks, and we're mad, etc. But here comes the non-real world again. And if Trump gives a speech tonight saying, I won and everything else is theft, oh boy. So now begins the period of time where the right wing begins to agitate, to say the least, and see what kind of damage they can do. And that's why a Biden blowout was really important, so that we avoided the right-wing madness and potential violence. So,
and Cenk, it's possible if he wins those states, if he wins Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, if Georgia stays turned in that direction, he wins Nevada and he wins Arizona, that's a big Biden win.
Yeah, as I explained, that's exactly the math that I laid out, where he gets a 307, and that's a relatively big win, but it's wasn't decisive enough on election night, where when Trump says they stole it, everybody else goes, yeah, you gotta go home. Look, weirdo loser, you gotta go home. Stop talking, right? And so who would say that?
Cenk, very quickly, it's a lot like 2018 when we were doing this, right? It was a decisive win. The Democrats won the House in 2018, but because of the way Florida didn't work out at that time with their, when you saw that Ron DeSantis beat Andrew Gillum, and then you also saw that Bill Nelson lost to Rick Scott, it seemed like, this isn't going very well. Then Beto O'Rourke lost to Ted Cruz. But when you looked at it on the whole of it, it was a really great night for Democrats that night. That's sort of what this has the feeling of being, that it's not exactly how you thought. But the way that it was rolled out at the beginning of the movie was really disappointing.
So let me start with Nando on this one, and then we'll go around. What happens within the non-insane people, and by that I don't mean non-bad guys. I mean people like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, who are terrible people, but they're not insane. If they know that Trump has lost, but Trump is saying, no, I haven't lost.
And you know why you get this like green outline around you?
What does McConnell and Graham do? What does the Republican Party do?
What green outline?
Like I've got like a glowing green outline around my character.
That's it. Everybody get in the streets. That's it. We're going to take it to the courts. Or do they tell
I don't know.
Trump, shut up. You got to go. I don't know the answer to that. I have no idea what the answer is. Nando, you take the first shot.
Well, when McConnell sort of blocked the second round of stimulus, I assumed it was because he knew Trump was toast in the election, and he was.
I think it's when you mouse over or something. I don't know.
And that he knew that he could block any sort of meaningful reform from the Biden administration.
If you mouse over a character, it usually has them glow a little bit.
Whatever losses they sustained in this election, but
it's not like that. It's not like any kind of thing I've ever seen before.
Any good faith or any sort of higher civic
Oh, it might be the corruption gear.
I don't have any corruption.
The power was removed. I don't know.
And in those 20 years, the Republican Party has become much more brazen.
Could it be something you transmog? I don't know.
And so I think someone like McConnell has no morals.
Like I didn't have it until I got into when I just zoned into Alterac Valley. It's on me now.
To see if like Republican state legislatures in places like Pennsylvania or whatever start playing ball and they sense they can get away with it, I think they'll go with it. But I don't think they're going to go to the mattresses for Trump. I think that they know that a Biden. I don't think they feel that threatened by a Biden presidency. I think they feel confident in being able to block any meaningful sort of redistributive policies, which is what they really care about. And they can take their chances in 2022 and then 2024 and beyond.
Michael, what's your take? What do you think the Republican leadership does if they're pretty sure? No, they're absolutely sure that Biden has won, but they think they might be able to get away with it, but they're not sure, and Trump is definitely trying to get away with taking it. What do you think they do?
Well, look, tonight proved that the Trump brand isn't as toxic to so many of these people as my predictive analysis thought that it would prove tonight. You have senators winning re-election in states that they would win re-election. You have members of Congress. Now the Democrats are going to expand their lead, but not to the levels I thought they would have expanded their lead. So so there are definitely going to be people that come to the president's side in this battle. It's going to be very difficult in some places. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Court made a ruling that ballots could be counted if they came in after Election Day. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld it. It was a 5-3 that it was upheld by the Supreme Court because Coney Barrett wasn't there yet, or she hadn't been there long enough to have heard the case. So I do think you're going to see more Republicans stick by the president in this case than you ordinarily would have if the president had this stink on him that they were running from. Clearly, it hasn't hurt in down ballot races thus far tonight, and I think that makes a big difference.
All right, now I got to ask the question. All right, then what's their percentage chance of being able to steal it? But before I get to John on that, I want you guys to understand, if it indicates that Donald Trump has actually won Pennsylvania, which right now that is not the case, none of these are the case. But if it turns out he has won Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona or Michigan, and he won the election, that's not stealing it, that's just winning the election. And as much as I want Democrats to be super tough fighters, I don't want them to lie, and I want them to believe in and carry out and live in a democracy, as odious and unthinkable as a second Trump term would be. And I literally have not even thought about it. Maybe we'll do that a little bit later tonight too. But I'm not talking about what if Trump wins. I'm talking about what if it is absolutely clear that he did not win. He's or absolutely clear enough, and he says no, I won, which is what he's threatening to do right now. John, let me start with you. What do you think happens next?
Yeah, really fast, I'll add that New York Times is also called Texas for Trump. So that's unfortunate. Really would have loved that country, that state that I lived in for a number of years. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. In terms of what will they do, what will Mitch McConnell do, what will all the other Republicans do, I don't see almost any reason to believe they will do anything other than that which has a chance of giving them more power. I look back and I try to find what are the places where Trump has gone too far for them, and I can sort of find one. About 6 months ago, when he sort of hinted that he might want to postpone the election, a lot of Republicans said, no, we're not going to do that. And other than that, I think that's about it. Everything else he's done, no matter how crazy, they will either go along with or pretend that they haven't seen the tweet. And the thing is, the reason for that is, there used to either be or seem to be a cost for doing things. You would say, sure, they might do that, but it'll cost them in some way. Even with Amy Coney Barrett, we were talking about how that's going to cost them in the next election. I don't think anything costs anything anymore. I think that Mitch McConnell can go along with trying to steal it, and either they steal it, in which case, cha-ching, they've got the White House, or they don't. Who cares? Like, he's so obviously hypocritical, so obviously doesn't care about whether people live or die. He just got reelected. He doesn't care. I don't think there's a cost to literally anything. I don't think you can be shamed. I think that they understand that their base wants them to wield power, and if they try to do that, then that's enough for them. That's it. So I think they'll do whatever they think gives them the best chance of maintaining their grip on power.
So now back to Nando. Well, if that's the case, what kind of madness should we expect starting in T-3, 2, 1, right after Trump speaks?
Well, I think that you're broadly seeing, we're probably broadly going to see more or less what happened in Florida in 2000, just a little bit more crazy, right? Mostly because Trump is crazier and more willing to go there than even George W. Bush was. That the Republican Party writ large is crazy and willing to go there more than the Republican Party was in 2000. I think we're going to see tons of uncertainty because I think this time we will see slightly more resistance from Democrats, certainly rank and file Democrats, mostly because George W. Bush in 2000 was kind of an unknown quantity. He was just a Texas governor. He wasn't president for 4 years the way Trump has, and he didn't generate the kind of rejection that Trump has in 4 years from the Democratic base. So we will see much more militant resistance from the Democrats, in which case we'll see, some very chaotic times. I mean, I have no doubt that the Republicans are prepared for some sort of judicial challenge. I mean, the Brett Kavanaugh opinion last week was just absolutely brazen, And the fact that three of the Supreme Court justices worked on the George W. Bush, Al Gore case in 2000, like gives the game away. The question will be how willing to fight will the Democrats
Stop chasing me.
They didn't fight in 2000, not that much. They didn't fight Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. How much will they be willing to fight a brazen stealing of the election by the Republicans? I don't know. I don't have much faith in them. I think that Democrats are still trying to play toward the reasonableness referee in the sky that doesn't exist. You know, who's kind of legislating points of like, oh, you're being reasonable right now. You get points that are going to get rewarded 2 years down the line in the next election. No one remembers the next election. You don't get points for those anymore, or if you ever did, really.
They don't have to distract anymore.
Cheat code that they don't have to be reasonable, that they don't get penalized at the polls for it.
I do.
And the Democrats are still playing that game. So the question is, will they be willing to shed that? I don't know. I mean, but I do think that the rank and file will revolt
this guy
in
gets
ways that
blinded,
that are unprecedented.
Okay, what do we got
guys,
here?
One thing before I get into more specific races, and I
think I can actually just go grab this
conversation again a little bit later in terms of what's coming next, whether it's militias or Supreme Court or whatever it might be. But look, if we've been looking at it all night from the point of view of reality, as I said earlier. If you look at it from the point of view of me think Trump win, me not care about anything, and then you look at the numbers as they currently stand, oh boy. Because if
he comes up here, he's going to see me.
You're seeing Georgia has 87% reporting, and Trump has a 5-point lead, but New York Times is saying that there's a 62% chance Biden's going to win. Oh, they'll never.
That guy's getting fucking tricked.
They'll never believe that. So if it turns out the votes come in and Georgia goes to Biden, as is apparently likely, they'll say no way, that was stolen, right? Okay, now let's move on. Wisconsin, 76% reporting. Trump has a 4-point lead. He's almost certainly not going to hold on to that. They'll be like,
kill him.
No way, stolen. Pennsylvania, he's got a 15-point lead with 2/3 of the vote in already.
Got him. Nice.
Now the mail-in vote's coming. It'll likely reverse it. That one I'm not as sure about, right? But let's say it does reverse it. No way MAGA believes it. And you go down the list. Michigan, same thing. He's got a 9-point lead with 60% reporting. They're not going to believe it.
Chauncey.
I'm not sure they're even
Chauncey.
cognitively able to understand the concept
Yeah, we're going to lose this.
of mail-in votes, and that they didn't come in after the election. That they came in before the election, and they're counted after the election.
Give me them titties.
Like, I'm not sure they understand that concept. So, or they care.
I didn't know Forsen had this.
So,
that emote of Pokey.
Headed down the pipe. I'm not trying to scare you. I was hoping that none of this was going to happen. I was hoping that the polling was right. There was going to be a blowout enough that we wouldn't be in this netherworld, in this purgatory, right? Where we think that we're going to come out on the better side of it. And in a lot of ways, we have good reason to believe that. But the other side now thinks, no way, we already won. We already won. So this is the point where they try to call the game at the end of the third quarter.
Which again, thankfully, at least we were warned.
Hey!
Like no one has ever been more warned about a scheme or a plot than we have been.
Stop scratching that.
We've been warned so much that people on CNN and MSNBC are mostly doing the right thing even because they've been so warned that you can't pretend to not understand what's going on.
But we could all understand it, but MAGA's not going to understand it.
Yeah, no. But what they understand is that those votes bad because they equal Trump not win. I mean, that's it. It doesn't. Nothing else matters. They don't care. And it's not like we need to convince them that those votes are valid, that they were in fact cast before day. Like they don't care about any of that. They don't want the votes. It's not that they don't trust the votes. They don't want the votes. They don't care about democracy. Like they don't care about fundamentally believe that we can fight and win in a democracy, but they don't think that they can, so they don't want it. They think that democracy is bad. They think that democracy gives power to bad, immoral, horrible, non-white people. That's what they think fundamentally. They will play along to some extent because they sort of have to, but that's why more and more Republican politicians are openly coming out against so much of what makes up a democracy, because they know there's no cost to that. Their voters hate democracy. They don't want that. They want an authoritarian strongman that's going to own the libs and, you know, give them whatever they want, which is mostly the owning of the libs. That's it. That's literally all you need to know about American politics, I think.
Yeah, on the libs.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about the potential reckoning, and then we got to give you important updates on where things are. Nothing's been called, but on important Senate races like Susan Collins and important progressive races like
Son almost has 200,000
So stay right
viewers.
here. We'll be right back.
Yeah, he's a fucking nerd. So I'm trying to make Hassan happen.
All contributions that go to tyt.com/go help spread the progressive message.
Dang, dude, I think Biden has it.
So here are the
You're dumb, dude.
today. Alan in California gave $127. You're going to get the t-shirt we press on. Dawn in Illinois, $10. Shirley in California, $10. King in Minnesota, $15. And Pauline in Minnesota, $50. You guys are the best. We're not powered by right-wing billionaires. We're powered by you guys, whether it's $3, $5, or $1,000. We love you. tyt.com/go. PragerU a right-wing media outlet that gets $20 to $25 million a year from billionaire backers. TYT doesn't have billionaires cutting us checks, but the good news is that we don't need them. Okay. Bring it down. TYT can beat the right-wing media and their billionaire funders with contributions of just $200,000 a month from TYT fans donating to tyt.com/go. And we're already halfway to our goal. Look, whether you give $3 or $3,000, your contribution helps us press on. And it might sound like it's a lot of money, but remember, it's only 10% of what they get from billionaires in these giant checks. And with 10% of their money, we're mauling them. And we can continue to get that progressive message out to everybody. And since we're only accountable to you, our fans, and not the corporate backers, we can cover topics like Medicare for All, Green New Deal, and definitely getting money out of politics without having to look over our shoulder at which donors we might be upsetting. That is liberating. You guys liberate us. The
I'm hungry.
are accountable to the billionaires that give their money, and in turn, what do they
Should probably
do?
eat something queer.
Propaganda on their behalf.
No, I can't say that on
We
stream.
do it to our audience and are only accountable to you. We are the microphone of the progressive.
Unless you're actually
movement.
queer,
Help us
which
keep
in
going
case
by
it's
making
fine.
a contribution today at tyt.com/go. Let's go beat
And
the
as we
billionaires.
have determined earlier, you are indeed queer.
When somebody's the president of
Get
the
over there,
United
gas.
States,
He said it on stream, guys.
2020 is everything. Everything will be decided in 2020, and then we'll either have pessimism a long time, or we'll have optimism.
There is some good news when it comes to elections throughout the country, especially for progressives.
I'm gonna go make something to eat.
He's trailing Joe
Yeah.
Biden in
There, yeah.
battleground states, and he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic, well, maybe it'll give him an edge over Biden.
We need to get rid of these people who are in office, who enable these systems that continue to oppress us. Start using your votes and your dollars for the people who want to preserve your community and your humanity.
Defiance is what you need.
And they fucking lose the fucking graveyard.
What you know is right. The fight never ends.
The fight never ends. And a Kasparian.
Fighter's chance.
Expand the squad.
Here we go, Squad 2.0. Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman.
And this is why
The Squad 2.0.
Turks are doing is so important.
This time, it's real. If he wins another term, God knows what he'll do to our government, our democracy, and our way of life.
Guys are getting shreked. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. Got it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Stop me. Bitches ain't stopping shit, bro.
I'm back to gaslighting. What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you?
Where'd my food go?
That it would have been happening my whole life.
Spawned all my food. Attack. Tricks of the turd. Down here, I guess. Oh, I could probably. Wonder, do these use those? Oh, stick it there. Bam. What you gonna do?
All right, back on the Young Turks.
See, I got this green outline again. What the fuck does this mean?
Nando Villa with you guys. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run down a number of the Senate and congressional races that we've been tracking, and then we'll talk about back to the presidential elections. So Montana, there was a hope that Steve Bullock, who was the governor of Montana and a Democrat, he briefly ran for president, if you remember. Of course you don't. No one does. He was hoping that he could pull it out. Well, now with 79% reporting, he's losing 53-47. So not a great sign there, but the election hasn't been called. And as always, you cannot apply normal rules of election nights to this night because no one has any idea what percentage are the mail-in votes. All right, so in North Carolina, Tom Tillis versus Cal Cunningham. There we had a lot of hope. I thought Cunningham was going to win. Right now, it stands at 93% reporting, so that's a lot, obviously. And Tillis with a 1.8% lead. So he's a Republican, and he's still got about a 2-point lead against Cunningham. If he holds that seat, that is devastating for the Democrats' chance of picking up the Senate. They really needed that one. Speaking of devastating, let's go to Maine for Susan Collins versus Sarah Gideon. Now, in this case, it's 82% reporting. Collins with a shocking 8-point lead. God, what in the world? Why does she have an 8-point lead? But again, it's not over. Mail-in, who knows, right? In the old days, 82% would have meant it's almost over, and with an 8-point lead, it would have definitely been over. But in this election, it doesn't mean that. So hold the phone, we'll see how it turns out. In California, 50% reporting, and Christopher Lee, 51.7 to 48.3. I am pleasantly surprised by given that they lost by 10 points in the special elections. Very pessimistic, but as things stand now, it's got about a 3.5-point lead. All right, every seat matters. That's good. Yes.
Do you think that this race will get called before your race against her gets called?
If you're wondering, I was in this race. This is the race I was in, not in an earlier cycle. In this cycle, I know it feels like it was I don't know how. You guys still remember? I don't know if you have any 1% feeling towards it or anything, but for me, it feels like it was a decade ago. But that's still this race. And so I lost in the primary. Christy and Mike won. They did the special election, and now they're doing the general election for the I know, it's so funny. It's actually a general election for the special election and the regular election. Oh, so and now she's got the 3.5-point lead. And that's great, and I want Democrats to pick up as many seats as possible. But the reference John made is the primary, California.
Oh, let's loot all this shit.
Finish counting, so it's only 77% reporting.
Oh, they got to 77.
On March 3rd, the election that happened on March 3rd, 77% reporting. They're working around the clock to try to get the other 23%. That's why I was not overly hopeful about there being a smooth count today across the nation, as some states like California every once in a while go, yeah, whatever, we're just not gonna do it. Which I can't stop being stunned by that indifference towards what actually happened in an election. Okay, and finally, for now, and potentially most importantly, Kara Eastman versus Don Bacon in Nebraska 2. Now, it's already being called for Biden, but people love incumbents because they see their names all the time and they get used to it. They're like, oh, I already voted for Bacon twice. I must like Bacon. I don't know anything about him except that he's, takes all the money from corporations, does whatever they want, but I voted for him before. I'm going to vote for him again. And so that's usually how it works. And right now, unfortunately, he's got a 4.6% lead, which is too much, with 97% reporting.
Where's my mouse?
So that does not look good for our friend Kara. So, yes.
God damn it.
Any other updates,
Distract.
Yeah, I have a
Like, my mouse is like all fucked up.
I had an update, but then I think I lost it. Anyway, not super important. Oh, Karen Bass was reelected. So from right around the block.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Now
Not
the
the
question
shocking
is,
thing.
we'll talk about this in the postgame. We got a postgame coming up for the members. We got a 2-hour postgame for you guys. I mean, I told you guys to join up, that you'd get more coverage. You're about to get a lot more coverage. There's so many things we got to talk about, including how progressives are going to react to this. But one of them is, so who runs for Kamala Harris's seat? Karen Bass, Adam Schiff, Javier Becerra. So, what's that? Ro Khanna maybe, right? Katie Porter. That could be an amazing free-for-all. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay,
But
so,
John, yes.
yeah, but no, the thing I wanted to ask is, I think it was from CNN or MSNBC. Honestly, I can't always tell the difference. Anyway, they had Trump about to give remarks shortly. So it's election night. He is the incumbent president. But can they just play his remarks live? Like, I'm assuming they will. But they know exactly what he's going to do. They know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to get up there and lie to the American people to discredit the continued count of an ongoing election. And they're going to do it. They're just going to play his live remarks. That seems like a massive dereliction of the duty of the media.
Well, that sucked.
To be fair to the media, in which I'm not, I think I'm always fair to the media. I'm not always nice to them. But in this case, it's the president of the United States in a contested election, and he's going to come out and say what he's going to do. Yeah. You got to cover that. You just got to. There's no way around it. Even if he comes out and goes, kill, kill, kill. You don't have a choice.
Kill the white man.
Don't kill, right? But, you know, they're stuck. There's no way you can not play that, in my opinion.
By the way, there is effectively a call. Now on Twitter, Cara Eastman is effectively conceding, it looks like.
Okay, so a couple of great progressives lost tonight, as happens on every election night, and it hurts every time. So Cara Eastman has lost.
Why is this quest on here?
Swearingen has lost.
On the Sanctum.
And they were great fighters.
Share that with me or some shit?
Super hopeful about Cara Eastman. Super hopeful. Yeah. It is what it is. Oh, wait. We don't have to move on. We could just pull a Trump and be like, no, fake news. Cara Eastman's the congresswoman. That's it. That's it. You got to remove Don Bacon from office. He's illegitimate. Cara won. Isn't that amazing that they do that? The other side actually does that. That's unreal. Anyway, okay. I want to quote you guys here because I like these couple of quotes from the member section. Connor says, I worked for Decision Desk HQ tonight and was listening to TYT the whole time. Glad to see them cited here. Well, glad to have you here and have you listening the whole night while you're working there. So that's awesome. Thanks, Connor. And you're a member too. TYT.com/join to become a member. Jatine12 makes a good point. On an upside, all squad members are going back to Congress. That's right. And Progressive Veteran asks a good question that we're probably going to have to carry over to the postgame too. Cenk, if the Dems don't win the Senate, it doesn't matter who wins the presidency, or at least I thought it was a question. It's not. It's a statement. But guys, Biden is president, but the Democrats don't have the Senate. Ooh, recipe for disaster. That we will get absolutely nothing done, and it'll all be blamed on Democrats. There's no way that Biden has the strength to overpower a Republican Senate. No way.
In the middle of an economic collapse.
What's that, Nando?
That's the real. In the middle of an economic collapse. I mean, that's the real nightmare, right? Because the economic collapse requires like massive stimulus, which the Republicans will be happy to block every single time. And the Democratic administration will be blamed, fueling a right-wing backlash more furious than the last one. That's the nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, let me finish it. It is inconceivable absolutely nothing gets done unless Mitch McConnell is thrilled to do it, which means Mitch McConnell is president, but all the things that go wrong will be blamed on Biden and the Democrats, setting up a smart fascist coming around this time in 2024, and then brace for impact. So we got to talk about what we can do about that as progressives, because we might have to go to war way quicker than we imagined, because I didn't have them not winning the Senate on the board. And we also have to, here, let's jump into this right now. Nando, what happened here? Okay, we know Democrats didn't run as strong, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, why did the polling tell us that Cal Cunningham was gonna win, as an example, and that Biden had much more comfortable leads in the Midwest, et cetera? The Midwest is still up in the air, so it's hard to tell what's actually gonna happen. Was the polling just wrong again? Or what is this Trump unlikely voter thing real? Can Democrats do likewise? What's your first take on what happened?
Well, it strikes me as that the support that there is amongst for Democrats is just kind of soft, if that makes sense. Like, it's like if people are asked, then yeah, they prefer the Democrats, but it's not solid support. It's not support that motivates people to go out to the polls. It's not, as the American electorate becomes more and more polarized and people kind of retreat into their tribal camps or whatever, elections become all about riling up your base and turnout. And so when people are asked the question and posed to them, they're like, yeah, I don't like Trump, and yeah, sure, I'll tick the box for the other guy. But if you don't give those people any reason to go out and actually do a positive act of voting, then they won't do it. I mean, I remember in 2018, I'm from Florida, like we all thought Andrew Gillum was gonna win. We all thought Bill Nelson was gonna win, and they lost to Rick Scott. Rick Scott, who was the governor of Florida, responsible for the largest Medicare fraud in the history of America, and the most unpopular governor in America at the time, wins the Senate race. And despite the polls showing that Nelson had a decent lead. I just think that the support for Democrats, because they don't campaign positively for an agenda that people actually want to vote for, they just kind of vote. They just kind of run prevent defense, to use like a football analogy. They're in the league.
Nice.
There's more Democrats in America than there are Republicans. That's true. As long as they don't do anything too terrible, they're going to win the elections. In the polling, that's what it says. But elections are about riling up your base and getting them out to the polls, inspiring them in some way. And that's why Obama won comfortably, because for all his flaws, people liked voting for Obama. It felt like a cool thing to do, to vote for Obama. So they went out and did it twice, even though Democrats lost everywhere else in the midterms and things like that. They liked voting for Obama. It was like a positive act. But the Democrats haven't offered their voters basically anything since then.
What?
They're just kind of now running this shadow campaign in which we're like, we're not as bad as the other guy. The other guy's terrible. All that's true, but we're not really going to offer you anything. Your life is not going to improve meaningfully. The downward trajectory is just going to continue. We're just going to manage it slightly more competently than the other guys. And that's just not going to win you elections in the long run. It's going to give you a decent polling lead because people hate right-wing politics. They hate the Republicans. I think the vast majority of Americans do that. But they don't have an alternative that is inspiring enough for people to go out and actually vote for them. The support is just kind of soft.
So I like that theory. So John, what do you think of the Nando theory that the polls are off, not because there's anything wrong with their science or statistics, but they're off because it's not measuring base enthusiasm enough in terms of voter turnout?
I think that there's something definitely to it, that they ask questions about enthusiasm. Those are words that can mean a lot of different things. Can they necessarily grasp how flaccid the support for a particular candidate can be? No, probably not. So I definitely think that Nando's onto something, that the lack of passion is a part of it. But let's also bear in mind that there are some particular things about this race. I mean, pollsters are trying to, you're either getting a registered voter thing or a likely voter thing, and generally the polls that people are focusing on are the likely voter polls, and trying to decipher who is a likely voter in this particular election, Donald Trump's re-election, and in the midst of a pandemic that is going to have far more early voting than ever before, is going to be more difficult because, look, there was a ton of early voting, but what you also had, in theory, was a couple of weeks of news about how much early voting there was and how how it was skewed for the Democrats. And so we don't know for sure if that might have had an effect on some Republicans' day of, that maybe after hearing for weeks that, oh my God, the Biden vote is really coming in, maybe they're a little bit more likely to vote. I honestly don't know. I think it's probably a combination of both of those things. Biden is not a candidate that's inspiring a lot of really strong support, and also this is a wacky year.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm buying the wacky year thing, because you call people their homes, they're more likely to be home. So, but speaking of wacky, let me go back to the numbers, because I got to update you on important stuff here. And we'll keep doing that through the post-game, too, because these numbers are moving. They're not moving anywhere near as fast as they did earlier in the night, but they are moving. So, for example, in Georgia, it's now up to 91% reporting. And remember, Trump had a 5-point lead. It's now down to a 3-point lead. So, at some point, the percentage chance of Biden winning had dropped to 59. It's back now up to 64. In North Carolina, man, that meter's moving slow, but it is inching towards Biden. Not close yet, but it was at 96% likelihood that Trump would win. It's now at only 82% likelihood that Trump will win, and the lead is only 1.4% for Trump in North Carolina. So it just moved to 83%. Keeps moving, okay? Now, Arizona, they brought out, Fox News brought out the guy who calls elections for them is running all their numbers. And he literally said, I'm sorry, but the numbers are correct. I love that on Fox News you have to apologize for incorrect numbers. That is so quintessential Fox News. And Biden, as things currently stand, still holds a 6-point lead in Arizona with 80% reporting. But it was 9. It has moved down.
Damn, dude. It looks like Trump might get it.
I know! That's not a surprise!
Still holding on to a 4-point lead. Nevada now a lot more reporting. In the beginning, Trump had the lead presumably because of day of voting.
Georgia's almost called for him.
Reporting Biden with a 4-point win, but Biden's supposed to win that pretty easy.
Dude, this fucking motherfucking demon hunter is a cheater, bro.
But it's not either. But it's not good news for Biden either. Actually, it's just moved again. Biden only a 3-point lead now with 78% reporting. And now the most important ones: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. They're moving less. They're pretty much where they were, with Michigan, Trump 9, Pennsylvania, Trump 14, and Wisconsin, Trump 4, but with giant stacks of mail-in ballots waiting to be counted, especially in the cities in Wisconsin, and they're going to announce them all at the same time. So I'm not too worried about Wisconsin, but there is still some chance that Trump could pull out Pennsylvania and Michigan. And then at that point, he has a better chance. It's not even a guarantee.
What's the chunk saying?
But he certainly would have a better chance of winning.
He's saying, Trump's ahead in all these states, but I'm not even worried about it. It's just because there's so many ballots left to be counted that are mail-in ballots, so.
In an unexpected way, but loses Georgia and Arizona, which is possible.
It's possible, you guys. It's possible.
So we'll do that math in a bit. But again, Biden winning Nebraska's 2nd district is huge. And yes, the race has now been officially called, by the way. Unfortunately, in the congressional side of that, Don Bacon has won, and everyone agrees. Okay, so we've got a whole post game where JR is going to join us, Michael Schur is going to come back, and we've got to talk about what are we going to do when Trump says I didn't lose? What are we going to do if Biden ekes it out? What should the progressive stance be? What are we going to do if the Senate is in Republican hands, even if it's 51-49?
Where's Nebraska?
Where's Nebraska?
Yeah.
Like physically located?
So we've got a little bit of time here.
So oh, I see.
John, is there?
I was like, I know it's around Kansas.
Yeah, it's right next to Kansas.
But to your earlier point about how there is no price to pay, you know, like, remember, I think Pelosi said it, Kamala Harris might have said it. Oh, they vote for Amy Coney Barrett.
Got a speeding ticket in Nebraska once.
No, the Republicans won all these close Senate seats. There was no price to pay. So I'm not sure I can even see
90 and a 75.
Forget progressive policies like easy things like $15 minimum wage, paid family leave. These should have been bang, bang, bang. And now, what do you think? Is it all dead?
I mean, I don't even think we need to jump to something either very progressive or just sort of progressive. How about like testing and tracing? Like some sort of basic pretending that the federal government cares about the ongoing pandemic. That's probably going to kill a lot more than 1,000 people tomorrow. And by the time Biden would eventually be sworn in, it was probably still going to be killing 1,000 people a day, if not far more. They might just not do anything. Like, I know that we're not likely necessarily to get a Supreme Court vacancy in the next 4 years, but why would we assume that even if it happened next year that they would actually give him a vote? Again, there doesn't really seem to be any cost for anything. Ted Cruz was saying going into Hillary Clinton being president hypothetically that there would never be a vote on Merrick Garland. They will believe coming out for this election that nothing they did this year and all the things they didn't do this year didn't hurt them, and I can't really say that they're wrong. Mitch McConnell will have maintained his majority, having weathered, from his perspective, the worst domestic crisis our country has had in a century, and they didn't effectively have to do basically anything for the American people, and it didn't hurt them. So why in a continuation of the pandemic, a continuation of the economic problems, would they feel any more reason to actually act? I think they would be rewarded by their base in standing up to Joe Biden. If he tries to do some sort of mask mandate or something like that, they're going to launch nationwide investigations into it or something, and their base will love every moment of it, even if 2,000 people, 3,000 people are dying every day. I think it is going to be a very, very dark year if they maintain control of the Senate.
Nando, last word.
I think it's even more. Yeah, I think it's even more grisly than that. I think they'll actually see political benefit in causing the most amount of human damage possible, right? I mean, I think that they're going to try as hard as possible to hang the pandemic around Joe Biden's neck. And, you know, forget a Supreme Court justice, the 6th justice on the federal circuit bench of whatever, you know, that's not getting confirmed either. Yeah.
Why are the Turks talking like Biden's gonna win? No.
Because they're fucking delusional.
Using the executive branch, basically, just unilaterally, and you know they're going to try to keep going to Congress for things, but there is wide berth that they could use if they were aggressive and kind of willing to break the norms that Republicans are so willing to break all the time.
So, guys, we're about to go to the post game for members. We're going to do a giant one today, 2 hours, because I want to make sure that I keep giving you results in case any of these races are called. And I think that in the post game, a couple of them probably will be called, and a number of them won't. So please stay here. You can hit the join button below the video on YouTube. And at the Essentials level, you get the post game and you keep watching. If you're watching anywhere else, tyt.com/join. We've got to break down all those scenarios of what happens when Trump imminently says, I didn't lose, they're trying to steal the election, etc. We've got to break all that stuff down for you guys, so make sure that you become a member. And then if at the end, the race is still not called overall, which is likely, you got to keep watching because we will do live videos to give you updates on important states and eventually the election being called if it's not done in time. And twostrongcoffee.com/TYT is a great sponsor that got us through the night and is progressive and delicious. And most importantly, I want to thank all of you who watched, who are amazing. Let's keep it going in the post game, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little.
Oh my God, it's close!
Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new. twostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at twostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be.
2020 is everything. Everything will be decided in 2020, and then we'll either have pessimism a long time, or we'll have have optimism.
There is some good news when it comes to elections throughout the country, especially for progressives.
He's struggling in polls. He's trailing Joe Biden in many of these battleground states. And he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic.
Ah, I can't believe we got that North Bunker through. That was sick. That fucking last second blind. Last second blind on that Demon Hunter up there. Whew. Felt good, bro. Felt good. Clip that shit. Clip that shit.
People who want to preserve your community and your humanity.
Defiance is what you need in order to fight for what
Zapped.
you know is right.
Zapped.
The fight never ends.
Progressive candidates come on this show. We help them. And
Zapped.
He's got a fighter's chance.
Expand the squad.
Here we go. Squad 2.0. Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman.
And this is
Zapped. Nope. Nope. Got taken out of stealth for some reason. I don't know. What?
What were you saying?
I was talking about sapping people. The stream ended. What? TYT ended their stream, bro. Fucking losers. Over to Crowder.
Yeah, right.
It is not racism, because if
It absolutely is, but to continue the story.
if the name that was there was Thomas Sowell, you know, I immediately would have voted for that.
Right. You should have known the
Right.
difference. Of course.
But the problem was I didn't know who I was voting for.
Right. There you go.
So I mathematically, the woman was immediately disqualified.
He was saying that he
And the
rage
name
quit.
that wasn't that white was disqualified because statistically they're just not going to be conservative.
Right.
Okay.
That's
And my mom said,
Like, what-
"Why
yeah.
would you say that?" She said, "Like, what it could have been like Amy Coney Barrett on the ticket."
Right.
and I told her that would be like winning the lottery.
Twice. Amy Coney Barrett shows up on your ticket.
Like
That's
winning the
that's winning the
lottery.
lottery.
That's not, yeah.
It's like Trump's gonna
Okay,
talk
so you voted
soon.
for the whitest name, and then afterwards you did your research.
Okay, bro.
It was actually Gibbon. Gibbon Tuck No
okay.
One. He did the research because he was upset too. And I said, listen, it's upsetting because I'm right.
You got a little triggered?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I was upset because I went to Manny with this question, like, you know, who...
Ah, shit, we're gonna go summon Nice Lord.
Did his research and he, you know... No, he didn't, of course. But then I looked into it. And I was like...
Both the Horde and the Alliance can summon him, right?
No, the Alliance summon like a druid guy.
And on Instagram, she says, yes, I do believe that all Black Lives Matter. And then the Hispanic gentleman just had nothing, like no presence. And the white guy... The white guy was very conservative and a big fan of first responders.
So, if you could do it all over again, would you?
I would do the same thing.
Now, let's say you voted for the white guy, and it turned out that it was like Francis O'Rourke, and you voted for the white guy, and it turned out that he was the most liberal. How bad would you feel?
So I thought about this too. Well, to the polling place.
Did you really?
I did.
You had this much time to enter in these equations
You talked about the
into
sniffing.
your
Yeah.
closed Colombian mind?
I was there for a while. And
Take your time.
basically, I thought about that, and I said, well, you know, if he is the white guy in the age of identity politics, he's probably the easiest one to bully and kick out of office. Because he has nothing going for him.
He's
just
not
white.
acting white boy punk.
He's just a white dude.
He can get pushed around.
If he was Muslim or, you know, Latin X, like, forget about it. You're never going to get rid of the guy. He's going to be in there
Yep.
till he's 95.
Unless he has higher office aspirations, you know, I mean, it's possible.
Do you realize that you're a horrible human being?
It's upsetting because I'm right.
He is right. And you do hope that nobody treats you this way, Manuel, correct, if you ever run for office.
But no, it's his own fault if it doesn't show up on the thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you gotta get
like,
out the vote.
Yeah, you gotta. If I don't know you, you gotta make your presence known. Like I know I'm voting for Trump because the name. So
Right.
you gotta get up your name brand.
The name, the party.
Yeah.
Got to get the ground game going. If you don't want people to be racist, you have to help them. That's the moral of the story.
Well, I don't even know. Would this be considered racist in Colombian circles?
No, not at all.
Well, it was also sexist, right? Because he ticked the woman off as well.
That as well. Could have been homophobic. We don't even know yet.
That was what your
Who
mom
knows?
was so upset about.
Yeah, my mom was upset that it was sexist. Yeah.
And again, if Amy Coney Barrett was, I won the lottery. Like I would have voted for her.
But I think she was saying it
You
could have
cashed
been
the
Amy
check.
Coney Barrett and you didn't even know.
No, I said the probability of that is non-existent.
He's just doing the math.
Thinking like
There's no way they'll announce the winner tonight, right?
She's liberal.
Is that
100.
Nah, probably not.
Same with the Latino voter. As
All
you
right.
see,
I'd be interested in that
Texas was
Is there
almost-
anything else since you've been?
When do you think they'll do that?
Anything else that
I don't
you would like to say on air here tonight on election night, this historic moment?
Trump turned 20 and hi mom.
Hi, Mom. Okay, great. Hi, Mom. Don't expect this vote. Do you think?
Don't run.
Do you think Donald Trump wins?
Oh, he already won. They're like just trying to shove in as many ballots as they can print real quick.
No, okay, but do you think that the end result will be Donald Trump winning, regardless?
Yes.
You do think so?
Yeah.
How do you think he wins it?
Michigan and Pennsylvania.
And you think he still wins Georgia?
Yeah,
I think he already won Georgia. They're just doing their best to not announce it.
Hey, and election betting odds are still going up.
Yeah.
Going up for Donald Trump? What are the election betting odds right now?
67 to 32.
Well, that hasn't gone up. I thought there were 67 before.
It was 60-40, I believe. Yeah, so it's gone up a little bit.
Okay. This cigar looks like a. Look at this. This thing is falling apart. I should have gotten an AJ.
Oh yeah, we summoned the Ice Lord.
They're still falling apart. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have someone else get me a different cigar. This thing sucks.
You don't smoke a bad cigar, not enough.
Oh, he starts out small and like he gets bigger as he kills people.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
well,
that's
Manny,
right.
I appreciate it. Not so much, but thank you so much. I'm glad that you're a part of the team. Just keep your views on racial supremacy to yourself, as long as it relates to the editing block, the editing cubicles. Okay.
Duly noted.
And let's try and avoid words like the C word anymore.
Yeah.
You've run into some. You know what I'm talking about.
If we had HR, I would.
Yes, absolutely.
Feed me, Seymour.
It's called me. And my feedback was, ha! All right, this has been Slightly Racist Manny on How to Vote. Thank you, sir. All right. Hey, Johnny boy, I am going to actually out to bring me one of those San Latano Maduros in my humidor, and if you could clip that for me. Yeah, this thing is just. You can take this one if you want, but I can't handle it right now. I can't with tonight. I can't handle a broken wrapper.
No,
you
can't do it.
In there, Gerald?
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Your wife was out there too. She's really been
And
very
my
supportive.
munchkin. He
Your
was
little
here
munchkin.
for the whole thing. That was great.
We have several dogs out there.
Yeah, I think the barking and chewing up of another human being probably woke him from his slumber.
I think you are right.
I really hope he's okay. More than Brendan. I really don't. I mean, I hope my son.
Remember
your
how
child
afraid I was
disturbed.
of your baby when you had me to go over your house? Like, you were like,
You didn't want to drop him.
Yeah, I really am. I really am afraid of dropping him.
No. I don't think that's just a you thing. I think that's everybody who doesn't have a child, which obviously was me until a few months ago.
Right.
You're like, how do I hold and not break this? You know? So I understand where you're coming from.
Baby's pretty resilient.
But you were also sitting.
I also don't trust myself because I always want to bite babies. What is that?
That's weird.
Why is it when you seem like you want to bite those feet and those hands? You're like, it's like, what am I, cannibal?
No.
So like, is it like
weird?
Is it like it's so cute? I just
Yeah, so you just want to bite him.
Not actually.
But then it's also weird that I want to have a baby throwing contest. Like I want to use it like a discus.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's unique.
You grab it by one foot, you just toss
maybe
it.
a baby
No,
doll.
I think that's just to me. Reg, the bandit. Do we have anything new coming in
So,
here? On
we're getting more and more for these for North Carolina. Hold on just a second.
It does look like Trump is about to speak.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Trump's about to speak. Trump's about to speak.
8 minutes though, so maybe just a few more minutes.
Yeah, we got a shot.
I don't know what's going on with the shoulder pads from this broad. All right, hold on a second. Here, you can take this out. Here. Maybe you guys want this one. It's just wrap
He's sick.
a little bit. Hold on.
Don't suck on it. He's sick.
No, that's good. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And you know what? I'm going to give you this there, Tim, because that's Shinerbach. And you know what? I hope they never become a sponsor for the show because it tastes like wet nickels.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No, that's okay. I will need give this to John. I'll need him to clip this. I can't, look at the hole in this thing. Look at this. What is it? What am I trying to suck it through a sippy straw? Oh, you know what? I have my own knife. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Sorry. This is not compelling content. All right, what were you saying there?
No, I was just gonna say if we have time before Trump speaks that Trump is holding his lead in Georgia.
That's good.
Decision Desk has 99% of the vote in, and he is still 2,367,000 votes for.
Wait, they have 99% of the vote in?
That's what Decision Desk is right at, a little less than 99%. And
okay, let me go to New York. Let me go to New York Times here. And it still has tilting 63% Biden.
So close.
How does New York Times have it tilting 63% Biden?
I think Decision Desk may be a little ahead of New York Times. Yeah.
But are they accurate?
So wait, Decision Desk has what? Donald Trump?
Here's the
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's substantially. In other words, that's 2 points. That's more than 2 points ahead.
Yeah, it's 120,000 votes.
Yeah. How do they have it at +4 on New York Times? Are they that far behind the most trusted name in news?
Yeah, I think it just must be that the remaining counties are just counting on those to make that up. But you know, as it gets closer, I'm not so sure. In North Carolina, Trump, it's nearing 99%, and Trump still has a decent lead over Biden there as well.
Yeah.
Now is that 99% of today votes, or is that 99% including mail-in votes? Are we sure that Decision Desk is using the same methodology? Because again, at this point, if what you are saying is correct, then it just means that the media is being afraid of calling states for Trump.
Yeah. You know, it could be that they're just they don't know exactly how many votes are going to come in. So Decision Desk is saying it looks like the numbers are similar. Decision Desk is saying a little less than 99. New York Times is saying 91 for Georgia, and I'll see what they're saying for North Carolina. But
now is that here's the thing that I want to make sure. Do we know, is that 99% of the total vote from 2016, or is that 99% of the total vote available this year?
Of the estimated.
Well, there's no way then at that point, if it's 99% of the vote, there's no way that Joe Biden makes up that ground in a place like Georgia. Georgia is 99%, and you said North Carolina is 92%?
Yeah, it is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me see what New York Times is saying as far as the percentage. If we want to go more conservative, that would be the more conservative.
New York Times is saying 91% is reported in Georgia.
Right.
And they're saying 95% reported in North Carolina, and they have it 85% Trump. In Georgia, they have 63% Biden. But
I've got according to AP, 93% reporting in Georgia, and it's 2.36 million to 2.248. So
for Trump,
for Trump, roughly the same.
So New York Times is the only one here that has Trump down.
Yeah, Associated Press, 94% from North Carolina, and they still have Trump ahead.
By how much do they have Trump?
He is 50.1%, and Biden is 48.7%.
See, they only have Trump ahead in North Carolina and New York Times by 1.1. So this is really important. Let's here. You know what? Well, no, I don't want to do it because we'll lose CNN. But do me a favor, Reg. Bring up Decision Desk and bring up was that AP, and then bring up New York Times. Have those in tabs next to each other, because you guys need to see the difference in New York Times. Either they are not good at their job and they are that far behind, or they are trying to avoid calling states for Trump. Why? Because they want to demoralize people. Why? Because they want Joe Biden to come out and say, hey, everyone, go to bed. You won't know the results. But guess what? If people went to bed knowing that North Carolina and Georgia went for Trump, that's a very different bedtime ritual, isn't it?
It really is,
Well, think
visions of winning danced in their heads.
Well, I think that blue wall, though, is, again, I guess 3 out of 4 of them have not come in yet. And, for some reason, he thinks he's comfortable calling it, or at least having some kind of positive feeling about it.
Well, and from what I understand, Georgia is also not one of the states where they didn't expect to get the results tonight. So if they have 99% of the results, Georgia is one that should be called tonight. And that's why I think Joe Biden came out and said, we feel good about Georgia. Well, you shouldn't.
Yeah. I think the two that we have to
Unless
really
he meant
watch,
a 6-year-old girl named Georgia.
Well, it's true. I think it's Arizona and Georgia. I think they're not talking about North Carolina at all on CNN. They haven't mentioned it probably in the last hour.
Yeah, North Carolina is,
so
I think barring some unforeseen incident, it's Trump.
So it really does come down to, I think, the Georgia deal, and then we'll just kind of see how Arizona goes. Because if Georgia comes in, I feel like it's over. Michigan and Pennsylvania look like they're very heavily leaning towards Donald Trump. It takes Wisconsin out of the mix. They're about 110,000 ahead in Wisconsin right now, but only about 65 or 70% reporting.
Yeah, if he wins Georgia and North Carolina, then again, like we said, he only needs to win Michigan or Pennsylvania. That's it. He doesn't need any.
Well, but if he loses Arizona, that's not true. He's got to win Michigan as well as Pennsylvania. So that's a big
Michigan.
change.
He can also do Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah, he could do one of those.
Whereas Joe Biden needs
all 3 of those.
Michigan and Pennsylvania, or Michigan, Wisconsin. So either needs all 3 or he needs the 2 big ones.
The 2 big ones, right? Exactly. So, and we'll see. And Nevada's very close right now too. And I know everybody's thinking that that's not going to happen, but it's I think 40,000 vote difference right now. So it's a obviously smaller population, 6 votes, but we'll see how that comes out.
So wait, can you turn on the cigar fan a little bit, just a little though, because I'm having one of these here now. Is it a premature victory cigar? Not necessarily. It's just I feel like it. And guess what? It's my studio.
You can.
Yeah.
That's a 29,000 vote difference in Nevada with 78%. 29,000 votes.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I should.
My question mark doesn't Does it seem so funny now, huh?
No,
Question
it
mark,
does not
Nevada.
seem so funny. Hey, can someone bring me in a
Put a
mug with
question
just some
mark?
ice, and I'll have some of this Russell's Reserve with it?
So I looked at, I dug into New York Times numbers. If you go to their actual numbers for North Carolina, what we're seeing is they are reporting essentially the same thing as Decision Desk and other outlets, but the deal there is that they are anticipating some of those later reporting counties to break for Biden, and so that's why you have that tilt on the election needle. Right, because that's sort of that's their prediction.
But North Carolina or Georgia?
North Carolina, it's
because they still have 85% Trump.
Yeah.
But Georgia, they have 63% leading Biden, whereas Decision Desk everywhere else has 99% of the vote, and Donald Trump leading by 2 points.
Yeah, it's the same deal, I believe, for both. That they are reporting the same numbers. Yep, they have Trump up in Georgia as well. And
let's show the screen, guys. Let's show Reg's the Bandit's screen if we can.
We're getting it pulled up.
Okay, good.
So anyway, it's they are reporting those numbers, but they're just anticipating.
So I want to be clear here. Right now in Georgia, 99% of the vote, and Trump's ahead by 2 points.
They say 91%.
But Decision Desk,
New York
and
Times.
AP say 99%.
AP says.
AP last I pulled up in Georgia was 93.
Yeah, I think it may be to
94 now.
Let's see.
And Decision Desk had 99.
93. Yeah, 93 on the Associated Press.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of these are reporting things like 94 to 98%. So there's there's a range for that. So I think that's what you have with Decision Desk is within that margin.
Yeah, but still, that's a big difference if everyone else has 93, 94, New York Times has 91.
Because that's a big number.
Let's see what Jake Tapper is saying right now in front of all those white states.
That we didn't anticipate would happen necessarily, although certainly people were sounding the alarms about Joe Biden and Latino voters. But there is a realignment going on, and so it takes a little while sometimes when that's happening.
What's with the shoulder pads at
so
CNN?
Close in each state.
That's weird.
What's with the Maleficent
trying to start a trend?
And
Style
Arizona
look.
and Georgia are the prime examples of that tonight. Arizona, we have been talking about the dramatic demographic shift in that state. And Georgia, same thing.
Important though for people
Georgia
watching, just so you know, that doesn't mean that Arizona is lost forever, because if Donald Trump made this much headway with
Where are they
Latino
getting these
voters,
fucking numbers?
Imagine what he can make before the next election, even in Arizona. So in other words, that demographic shift occurred really quickly, faster than Republicans could gain more Latinos. But you're seeing that happen. You're seeing the gain with Latinos really happen only in the last 4 months, 4 or 5, 6 months. And you're seeing that demographic shift having already occurred before the last election. So you're talking about a demographic shift occurring with more Latinos in Arizona. Also, by the way, anyone who lives in Arizona knows that there are a lot of people who are not there necessarily legally, and it's not necessarily hard to vote sometimes if you're not there necessarily legally. So they've had several years for that demographic to change, and we've really only had a few months of changing with Donald Trump and Latino voters. So that could change before the next election.
Why do you think that is? So you said just like 6 months or so of a big swing of Latino support. There's not like a news event that would be.
I think what it is like Latino voters, they're not registered compared to someone who I think he hates Mexicans, said that lady at that. I think a couple of reasons. First off, Latinos typically when they come to this country, they want to work. And they're being told by one party you can't work. And Latinos come to this country and they don't want to be, let's say Mexicans, they don't want to be in Mexico City. And they look at Philadelphia or they look at cities like Los Angeles and they see lawlessness and they see Kamala Harris and they see Joe Biden saying get used to more of this. And people who are Latinos for the same reason, people who migrate here from the Eastern Bloc, they don't have a lot of tolerance for sort of victimhood culture. When people talk about victim culture, when people talk about systemic, that's really not coming from the Latinos. Latinos are saying they just want a path to citizenship, but they don't believe that America is inherently a racist country. They want in this country, they want a green card because they believe that they have more opportunity in this country than their country, which is very monolithic as far as color. So I think there just aren't a lot of messages that appeal to Latinos coming from the current Democratic Party other than automatic path to citizenship.
Plus Despacito.
Despacito.
That was pretty bad.
People thought Sarah Palin was bad with Barracuda.
It was.
This was
Like Barracuda, it's like that's fine. That's like an American Idol round 2 song.
Well, another thing, and this, you know, to your point, Wade, this isn't something that just happened overnight, but I think they've.
How are we losing? Oh, fuck, I'm so tired, but I just want to fucking get this fucking mount.
Right, and so you may say that people under $400,000 aren't going to get a tax increase, but when you say you're getting rid of the tax credit that I'm getting right now, or the lower taxes I'm paying, then that's a big deal, and I think that starts to impact people. But anecdotally, in Hispanics that I know, they appreciate somebody that has the balls, I guess, to stand up to what they consider kind of a corrupt, you know, during the swamp kind of mentality that he had, and they appreciate that, and they're like, yes, we agree with that, right? We're being. This party has told us forever that they're going to take care of us, and they're not doing it. We're not seeing the results. And that the black community is probably thinking the same thing. Like, we had a black president. We had people in office forever saying they're going to do these things. They haven't done it. Trump comes in, and immediately we start to see this.
Yeah.
Right? We start to see
I think it's, you know, I think there's a big difference between Latino voters, Spanish-speaking voters, and people who are in close proximity to the border, who come here illegally. I think there's a big difference. Oh, it looks like Donald Trump may be coming out to speak. I see Eric Trump.
Trump's coming out, bro. Trump's coming out.
He was just speaking.
Trump's coming out.
It looked like Donald Trump Jr. was a little tired and he was a little dejected.
It did,
That worried me a
He
little
was
bit.
going on an hour of sleep. That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Oh, here comes President Trump. Let's see what he says.
Donald J.
Well, I guess we should probably stand. Even if it's just like... 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. Has a hot wife.
Well, thank you very much.
Let's go, Don. 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 Hug of ice, please.
Thank you very much, please, Sid. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you.
Certainly looks like a lot more energy than Joe
Appreciate it
Biden.
very much. And I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight. And a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people.
Look at this.
And we
he didn't
won't stand
insult
for
people
it.
who didn't
We
vote
will
for
not
him.
stand for it.
He insulted the elites. He's never insulted
I
the
want to
people who
thank
vote
the
for
First
Biden.
Lady,
He's insulted
my
Biden.
entire family, and Vice President Pence, Mrs. Pence, for being with us all through this. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good. Such a vote, such a success.
Such a vote. You never seen it. The
Citizens of
best
this
votes.
country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by
By the way,
a
that
lot.
gap is widening in Pennsylvania right now. It's now 14-point spread. It's 56-42.
We won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. We won Texas. We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it.
You can't catch us.
Regulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia.
They're going to try and say he's election meddling.
Well, 2.5% or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us.
They can't catch us.
Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina, where we're up 1.4%.
I believe him. And when you have Georgia and North Carolina, guess what? He just needs Michigan or Pennsylvania and one other, and
We
Wisconsin.
also,
or really, hold on a second.
if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters. And that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight. He said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that obviously to stay in play. But
Do we
most
have to talk over this
importantly,
so we don't
we're
get
winning
taken down again?
Pennsylvania
Every
by
now
a
and then.
tremendous amount of votes.
Pennsylvania is huge, hovering around 700,000.
Short of massive voter fraud, I see him winning Pennsylvania. And like I said, especially when you take into account fracking in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, Michigan's somewhere around 300,000 votes ahead, 310,000. 301.
We're up 600. Think of this. Think of this. Think of this. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania. 600.
He must be listening to us in his ear.
These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close.
It's not even close.
It's not even close.
It's close.
Hey, what's up?
It's going to be almost impossible to get. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. I mean, it's,
He catch us. Can't catch us, Bang. You can't catch us.
May I have a beer?
I don't know, dude.
I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said,
whoa,
that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin, so we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the
Nevada's
others,
a lot
I mean,
closer
we
than I
have
thought.
Yeah,
we have so
29,000.
many. We
Yeah.
had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won them by. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these
Someone in the control room,
announcers
keep an
saying,
eye on Young Turks to
"What
see what they're
happened?"
doing
And then they
watching
said,
this, because I bet
"Oh."
you they're going to have a meltdown.
Because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were going to win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court. So Florida was a tremendous victory, 377,000.
Hey, what was the final count,
Texas, as
Florida?
we
Did he
said.
win it by 3.5?
Ohio, think of this. Ohio, a tremendous state, a big state. I love Ohio. We won by 8.1%, 461.
What did I tell you?
Wow, that's huge.
I told you, if he won Ohio by 8,
Almost
that's a bellwether.
500,000 votes.
That's what makes me think he's going to win
North
Pennsylvania.
Carolina, big victory with North Carolina. And so we won there. We lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were
Now, let me ask you guys,
win this
does anyone here
election.
feel like he's just doing
Frankly,
this for his
we
own
did
personal
win
gain?
this
Or
election.
does everyone else here kind of believe this?
Yeah, he just
Because
said we did.
we've gone through the numbers ourselves.
The integrity.
Does anyone else feel like this is one of those things? He's not trying to stack the deck in his favor. I really do think Georgia, North Carolina, they should call that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing about Georgia is the
law to
votes
be used
remaining
in a
to come in,
proper
but yeah,
manner.
probably should call it.
So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad. It's a very sad
That's not going to
moment.
play well.
To me, this
That's
is a
going to be
very
the
sad
headline
moment,
tomorrow
and
morning where they're going to say he wants to stop
we
the
will
election.
win this.
Well, what he's
and
saying?
as
No,
far
he
as
was
I'm
saying
concerned,
haven't voted
we
yet.
already
He was
have
saying
it.
the Democrats.
So I just want to thank
Right.
you.
Oh, Democrats want to stop the votes?
That's what he's saying.
Oh, is that what he's
They're
saying?
stopping
I
it
wanna
tonight
thank
prematurely
all of our
to make it
support.
unclear.
I want to thank all of the
This just goes to
people
show.
that
Well, hold on a second.
worked with
Remind me.
us,
Work.
and,
Someone
Mr.
remember these
Vice
words. Work
President.
ethic Democrats. Remind me.
Say a few words, please. Please.
Come on.
Oi.
Bill, that's your small shoulders. Take it from Gorgonauts. Fuck them up. You know what I'm talking about?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join you in
Oh, I know.
thanking more than 60
Oh, that's right.
million Americans who have already cast their vote for 4 more years for President Donald Trump.
Put a beard on that son of a bitch. He'd be one hell of a Santa.
And while the votes continue
What do
to be
you want for
counted,
Christmas this
we're
year?
going to remain vigilant,
You.
as the President said. The right to vote has been at the center of our democracy since the founding of this nation, and we're going to protect the integrity of the vote. But I really believe with all of my heart, with the extraordinary margins, Mr. President, that you've inspired in the states that you just described, and the way that you launched this movement across the country to make America great again, I truly do believe, as you do,
You can even see
that
the
we
difference
are
in the
on
energy
the
from
road
Pence to Trump.
victory,
The
and
energy
we will
that Trump
make
has.
America great
It makes me
again,
tired.
again.
It's infectious.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And you can tell he really has a fondness for Pence. Wow.
All right, so Arizona ticked up 1 more point and then it narrowed again.
Okay. Let me see what they have to say on CNN right now, because they are going to be having. They're going to be apoplectic.
Falsely and prematurely declaring victory, saying that he won.
Falsely and prematurely.
He did not win. He has not won.
This has been the
President
play from the
falsely
get-go.
attempting to
The
count
fact that
against votes.
CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, they've been talking with big tech that Donald Trump cannot declare victory. Listen, what we would need, and I don't know, Reg, if you can bring this up, or if anyone out there in the control room, and Reg, I know you're tired, if anyone can bring up comparable elections in the last 20 years where states have been called that were close to these margins. In other words, if there's any way that someone, or if you guys can let me know in the chats, people who are there at lottovithcarter.com/mugclub on the Blaze, let me know. I don't have time. I don't have the ability to do this right now while broadcasting the show, but look up 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2006, 2016. Look up, really, let's go back all the way to Reagan. And I want you to tell me if there have been any other elections where with 93% of the vote and a 2 or 3% spread, if they didn't call it at that point. Because this, to me, seems pretty unprecedented.
If it is that, then the media is holding the country hostage.
Well, think of Florida for a second. Let's just go to Florida. They called Florida for Gore. They rescinded. They called it for Bush. And then that was just locked up in the Supreme Court for a long while. It was determined by, what, 537 votes? But the fact is they called it, both for Gore and for Bush.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing tonight, though, that's different is that we've got it's not close enough to call the election either way because Pennsylvania and other states are still outstanding. So I think that's the big difference. And I think you were actually correct that Trump was saying that we needed to take that to the Supreme Court because of some of the ridiculous things in Pennsylvania. I mean, do you guys know that Pennsylvania can accept ballots in drop-off boxes without postmarks for 3 more days?
Yeah, 3 more days.
3 more days.
I think that's why they say they're counting until Friday.
Do we have? Can you bring up that segment we have on the voter fraud?
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. There, Reg, can you bring that up?
I can't bring anything up on here, but I can tell you the numbers.
What was it? Do you know what the document was called? I might be able to find it here. Was it its own separate document, voter fraud?
Yeah, I have the election. It's in the election night briefing.
Oh, is it in the election? State briefing?
And think about this while you're pulling that up.
This is
You know, the entire kind of pitch has been that it's too dangerous to go vote in person. We have to have these extraordinary things like drop boxes for 3 days later to make sure everybody can vote, and sending out ballots to everybody. And it's all been this pitch that you have to let people do this in order to vote. And really what it does, just like in Harris County, they cut it down to one drop box because they're like, we think this might be illegal, and these votes may be kicked out, so we're going to drop it down to one. That way, if it happens, it's not going to affect as many people. We're going to force you to go and vote another way, and it gets pitched by the media that you're trying to suppress the vote.
Yeah.
No, we're trying to make sure that people's votes are actually counted.
So just for people who aren't aware, in Pennsylvania, the state legislature passed a law allowing no excuse mail-in voting, right? That was a first for Pennsylvania. And they've also had a lawsuit filed that ruled that ballots can arrive 3 days after the election and still be counted, even without a postmark.
Right.
And
Well, that's
what's
just
more,
insane.
By the way, up to, just for people who don't realize, 2.7 million compromised ballots. Now, that doesn't mean 2.7 million ballots that are fraudulent. That means 2.7 million ballots that are potentially compromised because they've either been double registered, because they can't be matched to signatures, because they've been found in a ditch, or because they've been actually attributed to dead people's names. So we have this on a breakdown by state. I believe we have it at loudercreditor.com. But 2.7 million ballots could have been compromised in elections as recent as 2020. Not saying that all of those are fraudulent. A lot of them are simply due to ineptitude. Sorry.
Yes.
so this is what Pennsylvania's done. They said, we stopped counting for the night, and you guys have got until Friday, November 6th, to drop off any more ballots in satellite locations, including unstaffed drop boxes.
Have these lazy pricks never heard of a night shift? Here's what you do. All right, guys, go take a coffee break. You're in. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we're
846.
here.
You take a break. Now you go. We've been here for what? 5? We've been here since 8 o'clock.
7 hours. 6 hours almost.
Yeah, 6 hours. I think this is longer.
almost
I think
7
this is
hours.
longer than our last election live stream, wasn't it?
Almost 7 hours, yeah.
When did we? Our last election live stream, was it done by?
I think we were done by 2, and then we made a really bad decision.
Then we drove, yeah. For people who don't know, again, the start of Mug Club, louderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club, for those who want to join. We did this in 2016. And by the way, thank you so much, Gerald. And thank you so much, Courtney, who is not here right now. I don't know if Courtney can maybe come in and take a bow or a curtsy. Courtney can come in and sit right there if she wants to. I just don't want her to because I don't know if she has her makeup on and stuff, and she's a lady and she's very fetching.
She's a lady.
But you guys really stepped in. Courtney! Can you come and sit? Do you mind?
All right.
Courtney, and then I want you to continue, Reg. Courtney, you were there election night. You have to put on your headphones, 2016. Oh, you have a cigar. I like a good lady with a nice cigar. Courtney, and back then you didn't even drink. Courtney and Gerald saved my ass because we did not have, and by the way, tonight every one of you has been making my life a whole lot easier, so I appreciate it. I really do.
We get this game over? Fuck me.
Reg, even Brendan, sorry about the dog. Smooth.
Oh, yeah, anyway, or 80%.
Cute Natty, Angela, Francine.
God, at least the
Darren
fucking
is
Alliance
one that I'm
lose
forgetting
fast.
Right now.
All the names. QB.
Me. Oh, me.
We love you.
But thank you. And I can only do it with the team that we have. Here's how you know that's. Some people just say that like, oh, I couldn't do it without. Listen.
Oh,
could I
shit.
do a show without the team that I have here? Of course I could. Could I do it as well? No. We brought in over a ton of sand to do a Saving Private Ryan parody that we're recording Matt Green. That was
fun. On here.
Look at the change of minds that we've done. We've released 2, 3, 4 in a week. You can see the volume of work that I was putting out before the team that we have, and it was not the same that we have now. So does it come from this cerebellum? Sure. Do I think that I'm that bright? No. But I have a team of people who are able to frame it in and make it work that is doable. And so everyone here has made tonight possible. On that night in 2016, and it was Courtney and it was Gerald. Gerald was really just kind of there just to help be a sounding
Nope, just
board.
gotta spawn.
And Gerald and Courtney.
Have fun, guy. You're dying. You're dying, boy.
I got my security deposit back on that house.
Oh, that's.
But you really took the bull by the horns because you could see me going, I can't handle. Because everything at that night in 2016, it was all on my computer, right? And I had a mirroring app, which wasn't even like an Apple TV, or it wasn't even like some kind of a Roku. Even it was just me having some kind of a makeshift mirror app. It was a Black Magic connection, trying to get it done. I'm going, I can't do this. I can't call the election and watch these streams and stuff. And Courtney, do you remember what you did? Because I don't remember, but I remember you and Gerald communicating. Tell me, because you guys took charge.
I remember getting a phone call. I remember watching the stream, and you said, you know what? I gotta go for a second. And then.
Where's this fucking game at?
From you.
I'll go sleep. Fuck.
Fucking handle this right now. I'm losing my mind. I need you to get things organized. I'm like.
Fucking stream off.